Okay, we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy after a good few weeks hiatus. Much has changed since we were last on the stream, as you probably know, and we don't want to be like Debbie. And obviously, it's the big thing going on in the world at the moment. But we wanted to just sort of jump on and keep this a fun sort of what we've called the video quarantine Q&A. I'm sure all of us are self-isolating and doing our bit for the world. But yeah, we're just going to be chatting movies, shooting the shit. And actually, I think this is the first time all three of us have been on a stream together since the Oscars. Tate,
it would have been
back safe in the UK. He managed to get through
borders. I ran back very fast. Seriously, this point in the evening, what would it be? Monday. So I'm meant to be making schnitzels at the moment, as part of an evening activity that I do out there. So yeah, currently back in the UK. They basically not only closed the resort, but they basically shut down the entire country. You're not allowed 5 people in one household at one time over in Austria at the moment. So I made the very swift decision to basically get back as soon as possible. Managed to get back quite safely across most of Europe. But I have to go into 14 days of social isolation or whatever it was. But then that changed with the laws or whatever. Not the laws, but what they're saying on the news. I was meant to go into social isolation. Then suddenly everyone was meant to go into social isolation. So it's like... nothing's changed.
Just sounds like my everyday life, to be honest. Like nothing has changed for me.
I'm in this similar category. Like I have a social life. I go out and see my friends. But everyone's like, oh, you're now staying inside permanent. Oh, brilliant. I set my alarm to start work 5 minutes before.
Yeah.
Finish work at 4:30. Let's walk upstairs to the room. It's safe. Still go out for my walks. There's no gym, but we've ordered an exercise bike so I can just do it in the garden. It's not... I mean, obviously it's going to be different for everyone. Personally, I don't think it's that hard for people to stay in. We're not a news channel. We're not going to sit here and say there's a big announcement at 8:30, but we're expecting to go into lockdown. I know that anyone listening to America, I'm pretty sure most states are now in complete lockdown too. Obviously, the biggest thing that impacted us as a film channel was number one, James Bond got delayed first, then everything else, and then the cinemas got shut down. So film-wise, right now, the next film being released is Wonder Woman in June. Brackets, presuming it doesn't get released, cancelled, whatever you want to say. No, I don't care about Wonder Woman.
I wonder if things are going to get because Disney have already announced that they're going to be putting up a couple of films which have been released or had some form of release recently from their cinema straight onto their stream platform. So I'm wondering whether film companies would charge like a box office rate for having the films available at home.
So that's kind of been on the news, certainly in America, where, I don't know, is it Universal? Whoever did The Invisible Man, which I know Chris has seen, that and a couple of other films they're releasing in America, it's like $20 and you get a 48-hour rental, which makes sense because you're paying a premium.
For a 48-hour rental?
But you got to think, if it's a cinema ticket, they're expecting 2 of you to be there. It's a lot. I wouldn't pay it for 90% of the films that are probably going to be offered online. I will stick to my Cineworld membership brackets. There isn't a membership anymore.
Correct.
But yeah, it's a weird... I mean, there's always been rumors that someone was going to talk about we'll release a film at home for you all to watch. And this isn't The Irishman where you watch it as part of your Netflix. This is a paid box office. Now, there are so many films being delayed. I think New Mutants is going to be on Disney Plus. That's my vibe. It's been delayed a million times by now. I'm sure it could even get delayed again.
I feel so bad for the director of that film, who's just been sort of caught up in everything that could go wrong with a movie has gone wrong with New Mutants.
I mean, wasn't the latest rumor that Disney let him reshoot it? Disney let him reshoot the reshoot so he could have his original film? Yeah, which is the most ridiculous 20th Century Fox thing I've ever heard or seen. And yeah, I mean,
have they actually made any changes to Fox since being taken over by Disney?
So when I saw Call of the Wild, the dog film, which is disturbing dog film, there was a very weird moment in which the 20th Century Fox logo comes up and it just says 20th Century Studios.
It looks wrong. It looks right.
It's I get why they've done it, but apparently this is what's crazy, right? This was pulled off Wiki, and I'll give them this. The first ever film to have the original 20th Century Fox logo on was the original Call of the Wild. And the first ever film to go back to what it was 20th Century Studios is the remake of
That's
Call
mad.
of...
Wow.
I saw that and I was genuinely like, whoa, there's ridiculous stats and then there's that. And
There's
that
like
kind of threw me.
All part of the plan. It's like it's all planned ahead of time.
The film itself, yeah. I mean, Harrison Ford's ripped at his age. There's like a random topless scene, but he doesn't like fight bears or anything. It's just like Harrison Ford in the lake and he's shredded. I was there like, you know, he got like Swirlo Ren in episode 8. You kind of got like, well, there's his like shredded dad that trained him. No, Call of the Wild. I think that's. God, is that the last film I ever saw at the cinema? No, 1917. I did see that just before they put the cinema shutdown in place. So I got to go to an empty cinema and no one coughed, which was the more important thing.
My God, what was the last film I saw in the cinema? It would have been Star Wars, which is very disappointing.
What, the film or the fact that Star Wars was the last movie you went to see ages ago?
I've seen other films since, just not in the cinema.
Yeah.
Like they do one original language screening per week.
Mm-hmm.
And the one for that week, the only week where I could really get down and to go see it was Star Wars. We'd actually booked to go see James Bond in April as the only English showing of the week. But that was cancelled and they refunded the money. So,
I mean, the title of the movie is going to be very ironic now if we all make it to November to finally see the damn film. But
yes.
The last two movies that I went to see, so I went to see The Invisible Man, sort of the low budget reimagining of the 1933. I think it was a Universal Monsters movie, The Invisible Man. Very solid. I think it was very overhyped from reviews that I saw, but it was fine. It was a good reimagining. And I went to see Onward a week today. So Monday last week and Tuesday onwards, all my cinemas got closed. So it was like a last hurrah. I didn't know it at the time, but it was a last hurrah going to see that movie. And now, shit, I don't know when I'm going to get to the cinema again now. Like, good few months' time, probably.
It's going to be
crazy. I mean, I get it. Like, we need to close. It's safety. But it was when I think it happened in America before England, when like it was like no theaters are going to be open in LA for 6 to 12 weeks. And you're like, whoa, that's quite something. Obviously, when a lot of people on my social media are film like journalists, actors, whatever. So obviously they're all stuck in their mansions and stuff and singing Imagine, which we're not going to talk about. Probably the worst video I've ever seen in my lifetime. And yeah, like when we had it closed, it was sad because I know a couple of people that work at Cineworld and they basically laid off all their staff on Thursday, which was bad because Odeon said we're going to keep all of ours. Who's the other big chain View will keep all ours. Then in the background, Cineworld just like got rid of everyone. And then they've got the cheek to try and buy out an American cinema chain for $1.6 billion, which is insane. Not quite sure what happens when they decide to reopen them because there'll be no staff to open them. It's a very weird situation, but I just did think this. I mean, you guys know I've always kept my tickets for like my films and stuff, and it's just weird that there's like going to be nothing. Like every film's getting cancelled. I think any that do get released online, they're not going to be the big blockbuster ones. I think you might get a couple of B-list, like Onwards, like that's going to go on Disney Plus. That's fine. It's already been out in the cinema, but also it's that kind of Pixar. It's not a sequel. It's sort of like one of the original films that hasn't had much traction, I guess is a fair way of like kind of putting it. So releasing that on Disney Plus, that looks good for Disney Plus.
Well, that was actually going to be one of the questions I wanted to ask you guys was what are your opinions on if Disney did decide to do that with some of their other big ones which were coming out as well, like Mulan and Black Widow. They're probably the next other Disney big hitters that could go on.
People are going to boycott Mulan anyway, so I feel like at this
that's
stage...
what I thought. I thought, like, do they just cut their losses? Because we knew they were banking on their Chinese box office, right? But then everything that befell with like the actress and everything like that, there didn't seem to be much hype surrounding it as there was for the likes of, say, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, or even Lion King to some respects. There just seems to be no one was fussed about it. Like, do they just bite the bullet and get it out on streaming service or as an audience? And Black Widow as well, like, if you push that back to next year, will people still care? Will that mess up the rest of the MCU and the release schedules they had for that? Like something like Marvel,
without spoiling anything in the first place, I know that Marvel wants to get another female superhero under their belt, but does anyone actually care about Black Widow film like at all?
Not
No,
really
no.
after Endgame.
I'm intrigued.
Maybe 10 years ago,
Why
like
do people care?
maybe if they'd have made this movie 10 years ago, like after Iron Man
Yeah.
2 or just
Yeah.
after or before the first Avengers movie, possibly, but after
Yeah.
Endgame, it just
Killed
feels
it.
like retreading. Like, I'm sure the movie will be fine. The trailers look fine. David Harbour looks really entertaining in it, and I'm sure it'll be a decent what we've come to
Yeah.
expect from a Marvel
It's got a
movie.
good
but-
cast. We got Florence Pugh in there as well. Like it's gonna be a good film, but will anyone actually care about it? Like
I don't think it was a film that people were flocking to the cinemas to now. I'm going to make something bold and say that Black Widow is only a film because Wonder Woman did well. I think they undernard for years about Black Widow. Do we, don't we? Supporting role in Civil War.
what was the last Marvel film to not make $1 billion?
I will.
That's actually a really good question. All of them did last year. Black. I'm sorry.
Black Panther definitely made $1 billion.
I'm just having a quick look. Should have a list.
Ragnarok or Ant-Man 2? I think it's Ant-Man 2.
Ant-Man 2.
That's my bet.
Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yeah, that made 622 mil.
Yeah.
I read it's like when it's like that scene in The Dark Knight when I was like a relatively small amount. It's like 622 million. Everyone else in the world's like, we'll take it. But like, I mean, how many $1 billion films that in a row? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that 5 in a row now?
Mm-hmm.
Or 6? I mean, it's frightening.
Do they want to break the chain?
I don't think they were going to get it with. I mean, I didn't think Captain Marvel wouldn't. It did, but I think that a lot of that was the pre-Endgame build-up. I think Black Widow was a very strange one that, because of Endgame, because we know she died. It's a case of we know this is a flashback. We know this is set before, but why do we need to flock to the cinema to watch that when we know that she's dead right now in terms of canon? And obviously, I was looking forward to it and stuff, but. You know, Marvel's slate's interesting because next year they're meant to be going into 4 films a year, and now this plus Disney plus TV shows. Now this virus is. I mean, I think we've kind of spoke before about the writer's strike of sort of 2009, where I didn't really know of it until after it happens. I'm going to assume that this virus stuff is just going to wipe out people forgetting there are films in post production, which I guess aren't going to be being done in post production now as well. Like the ramifications of the next few months are very interesting. From the most selfish standpoint, there are only 2 concerns of mine right now. Number 1 is Tenet, and number 2 is that thank God the Obi-Wan Kenobi series was delayed to January next year for filming.
I had a really good question from my mum actually the other day. She was saying with all the films not being released at the moment, what does that mean for the Oscars next year? And my immediate first thought was, well, shit, this could be a good year for a complete underdog. And I know that Parasite was a somewhat underdog, but it was always going to be between Parasite and 1917 for Best Picture. We're talking about a massive underdog here, possibly taking Best Picture purely through default. Like, if there's no films released from like now until say when Oscar voting closes or Oscar entries close. How are they gonna? I mean, Netflix is obviously gonna have a few films coming out. Whether they're able to actually put it out and have it displayed and stuff like that. But I thought the criteria for having an Oscar entry was that you had to have a short cinema release.
Yeah,
that means that the only films that would be eligible would be the films released between
January and March in America.
January to March, which doesn't leave many films that would be eligible for Oscars.
What's going to happen is that Birds of Prey is going to win Best Makeup, and it'll be back-to-back makeup Oscars.
Jesus. Well, at the minute, all the films that have been delayed are still coming out this year, with the exception of one, which might be the most heartbreaking thing to ever hit, is that Fast 9 is now coming out in 2021 and not this year. You have no idea how much I was looking forward to that movie. The trailers had me. I was down. It was going to be the summer movie event of the year, which now it's going to be the summer movie event of 2021. But whatever. I guess more hype, right, for the saga continuing.
What's amazing was that the new date was the original release date for Fast 10. I was like, could you have imagined if you could have had 2 new Fast films on the same week? Not that it's going to happen, but Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I think what's going to happen is that the mega blockbusters, your 200 mils, your Bonds, your Fast Nines, Black Widow, please not Tenet, maybe Wonder Woman, the really big one. I
didn't realize that June was getting released this year. I thought it was going to be released next year.
December, so that should be fine.
Yeah.
I think they're going to take risks with the smaller films and probably put them online or do something interesting. But the big ones, to be fair to Bond, I know they were the first to move, and everyone kind of not mocked it, but you've said you're only in it for the money. Bond's now picked itself an empty weekend, and I think the issue now is the scheduling, where blockbusters who always make sure there's sort of 2-3 week gaps are all going to have to group them up or just delay them to next year, and the knock-on effect of these releases. I mean, they can release them, sure, but it's clearly going to be a financial decision of when do you want to take a loss on it. I mean, even stuff like Jungle Cruise, just because it's got The Rock in it, would have probably made like 800 million. Mm-hmm. It's just crazy. But my soul with coronavirus comes down to Tenet. If that film gets delayed, that will honestly ruin me.
I would love to see Tenet. I think Tenet's probably going to be the biggest film of the year, shall we say. Whether it ends up being the best film or not, it may be an Inception, it may be a complete dud, it may be just Christopher Nolan taking it too far.
So you're saying it could be an Inception, or it could be a Dark Knight Rises. It could be either one.
No, I almost.
It's not that bad.
I almost accused Nolan of going too far with his time element that he added into Dunkirk, because the film was excellent enough anyway. You didn't need to have the confusion of the overlapping time elements.
He was robbed by a deaf person.
You didn't need it. You didn't need that Nolanism. The film itself, without those time elements, probably would have been good enough to...
I don't know, because if you take out the time elements, then it's like, here's like 1 hour, 30 minutes of Harry Styles and the ground people. Here's 20 minutes of the boat. Here's 5 minutes of the RAF pilots. I don't think it would have worked. I mean, I would. I mean, you know me. I'll overly defend that till I die. But I don't mind. I thought it was more interesting than what it's like 1917. Like 1917, it was perfect as a one shot. It made it far more interesting. And when you get these war films, I like it when there's something new. Saving Private Ryan is still. I mean, I'd say there's a top 5 war films of all time. It depends if you want to put Vietnamese stuff in there, but post Saving Private Ryan, all the war films went from like character-driven stories with war around it to let's get the set pieces, the action done. And there's nothing wrong with that. You get some really good ones. I think you guys have seen Fury, which I thought was massive.
I was just going to mention that. I still haven't seen that. Maybe now that we're under quarantine, I can finally go back and watch Fury.
One thing that I will say, because I still haven't been able to see 1917 in cinema. I was only able to see it on a laptop screen, and it was disappointing for me to be able to see it just on a laptop screen. As far as the film is concerned, that may be my favorite war film I've ever seen. And that takes out the element of me actually being there to be part of the filming and stuff like that. Just watching the film itself on its own, it is unbelievably good.
The second viewing held up, which was really big for me. Because I think war films can be awful on a second viewing. I think you can get over your big battle and it's like, oh, that's actually really boring. But a couple of them stick with me. Fury's one, which I thought was so under the radar good. And I don't know why it flew under the radar for people. And I think now, to be fair to Nolan, to be fair to, I've forgotten his name, Sam Mendes, they've took their own, we've got an idea of a war film and we're going to do our own thing to it. I quite like that. I'd like more people to do that. I will never get over the atrocity of the Oscars that year. I will keep making comments. 1917, I thought I had it in the bag until I saw Parasite. I think Parasite would have beat any film.
The moment where your entire demeanor about what was going to win changed was when it Best Director.
Yeah. I personally, I think Sam Mendes should have won Best Director still.
He should have won Best Director, but I think Parasite should have won Best Film.
Yes, that's what and I think
it's a weird kind of thing with that.
Because him winning director was such a big shock. That was okay. He's just made the biggest shock of the night, winning director. He's going to get film.
Yeah.
Again, I don't mind that, but 1917, I had a lot of fun going back to that, and I'm also still happy they never cast Tom Holland, who was originally up for the role, by bringing the two unknowns in. It made it a lot. I know we knew him as Tom and Braffin, but if that was Tom Holland, all Spider-Man hatred aside, that would have been for me way too disturbing. Tom Holland is too big for, you know, like how they're the big cameos.
Yeah,
it would have been like one of them. Like
I don't know.
I don't want to go, Mr. Stark. I don't want to go. Like,
well, no, I was going to say,
again.
I was going to say, I've been kind of following Tom Holland's career
with great interest.
Well, since he was about 8, dude. Since he was about 8.
That's not
which
creepy.
Context. He was in Billy Elliot. My sister was in Billy Elliot.
Okay.
I have been to a restaurant with him at the same time when I was younger, but don't
What did
really
he order?
remember it. It was Wagamama's, so it would have been katsu curry.
Oh, okay. Solid choice.
But like watching him throughout all of his films, was it the Impossible with Ewan McGregor, the one about the tsunami? You've also got what other film was Tom Holland in?
Spider-Man.
Not Spider-Man. There was another one that he was in
Avengers.
It wasn't Avengers. Fuck off.
No, he has done something.
And now
like,
he's going to be now he's going to be Nathan Drake apparently on Uncharted if that's still going
from
ahead.
what I've seen and from
that might get delayed again now.
From how George McKay actually portrayed it in the film, I don't think Tom Holland could have pulled off that kind of shell-shocked war face that George McKay did.
Mm-hmm.
Even seeing,
no, Tom Holland would have been the little one that died. Sorry, spoilers. Tom Holland would have been Tommen.
Yeah, that could have worked. I'll be honest. That could have worked, and it would have gone for okay shock value with at least the fans of Tom Holland going, "Holy shit, they just killed him off midway through the film," which would have been hilarious.
I think, as we said in our review, I think it was really smart that they went with mostly unknowns for the main 2 leads, and then you had your well-known actors as the places of authority and the generals and captains and everything like that.
Right, shall we take JX Editor has asked a question. What have we all been up to this lovely quarantine? Now, Tate's already going for the beer. He's been
you lad!
all I'm saying is it was on offer.
Was it? I've heard rumors that apparently the supermarket, since the pub banning on Friday, that all the booze is now being like the mass panic buy.
Yeah, so basically, I went to my local shops on, what would it be, Friday? And it was just stepped into the alcohol aisle, and both the wine aisle and the beer aisle were just flooded with people. And I was just like, no, I need to keep my distance. I'm just going to back away.
Well, I've still got the half bottle of Gentleman's Jack that Tate very kindly bought me about 3 birthdays ago now, probably, which has almost become a little mascot, an heirloom of the channel at this point.
It hasn't matured yet, Chris.
It's maturing very nicely on my desk right here. So, for those special occasions. Hey, if I survive coronavirus, I'll take a goddamn shot in celebration.
It's really had me in the mood just for like, now I know I can't do anything. It's this new mindset of, wow, I've had these games downloaded on my PS4 that I was always going to save for a weekend. And now I'm sat here like, well, I complete The Last of Us in 2 days, which I definitely thought was too quick. And that was before it went too crazy. That was like the week before. And now I'm sat there, I went on my PS4 this morning before I went to work, before I walked downstairs. And I've got both Arkham Asylum and Arkham City untouched, which I've had on my console a year. So I've been rewatching the Nolan Batman films, and I'm on a bit of a Batman high right now. I really want to start playing them, but I've got addicted to Football Manager, which is the most dangerous game in existence.
It really is.
I've not done much, but I've got a lot of games. And you know what? I've not seen many films either. I thought I'd be watching like a film a day or something, but I've not really done it. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like I don't want to like peak early. Like I need to get into the mindset and find the right things. I want to watch a lot of telly. I think TV is really good for like sitting at home for long distance.
For me, what have I been up to? So I've been doing some studying. Very fun stuff, fitness instructing stuff that I'm doing at the moment. I've been catching up with some editing of my Hobbit edit, which has been ongoing now for 6 goddamn years, on and off, which will hopefully be finished in 2020. Now I have a lot of free time. And like George mentioned, the PlayStation 4, I lost my physical copy of God of War, which really distressed me. It was my first PlayStation 4 game I ever bought. I loved it. and I can't find it anywhere. So it was on offer. I downloaded it for like £15. I've been starting that again, absolutely loving it. And I'm kind of with George as well on that one. I haven't been watching many movies. I probably should. I have many DVDs on my shelf that I still haven't watched yet. Movies that are meant to be great that I haven't. Maybe we should do an unofficial film club again or something, so I can get some movies watched, like famous movies watched.
Yeah, I think we need to do it. I mean, I've still got this poster which Chris gave me for my birthday a few years ago, which I don't think I've actually shown on this channel or anything like that. But it's basically a movie, the movie bucket list, and you've got 100 different films to go through. And I feel like this is now the time to basically go back and just rewatch all of them.
That's a self-isolation challenge right there, Tate.
That is a socialization challenge, and maybe I'll turn it into a series of something. I mean, we're probably going to be locked down for 100 days or something like that. So one film a day, I could easily get through it. I think it'll be saying that Lord of the Rings trilogy and Star Wars trilogy are counted as singular things. So...
And rightly so.
You have to watch them back to back to back for it to work. And
I've done it. It's not a fun experience, but I've done it.
I had a ticket to the Arnold Schwarzenegger all-nighter at the Prince Charles.
Oh,
and that would have been this Saturday. One of my old school friends texted me like after Christmas, like his girlfriend bought him a ticket to the Studio Ghibli one. That's the anime. And he's like, "Do you want to go to the Arnie one?" I was like, "You know what?" I was like, "I get paid the day before. I'll give it a go. It will be a laugh." And then obviously quarantine happened, and it was a really edgy text. I threw it. He was like, "Hey man," I was like, "I'm still fine to go, but I don't think we're going to be allowed to go." He's like, "Yeah, same here." So I don't think we're going to do our own Arnold Schwarzenegger marathon. I think it'd be a lot harder to do at home versus in a cinema. But there's a lot of films I kind of want to watch now. Like it's one of them. Like you've got all this time, all the stuff you always say you want to do that you can do. It's like you still don't really get round to it. Like I'm still working. Granted, I get to finish at like 4:30 and start 8 like at home and not drive anywhere. But it's like I don't know. I really want to watch Chernobyl. That's been on my hit list for a while.
Yeah, that is on my hit list.
I've seen the first episode and then I never went back to it. I think I got distracted by something else. But the weirdest thing in it is because I was expecting everyone to be, like Ukrainian, Russian, everything like that. They all speak English or American or Irish. It's weird.
It's a bit like Death of Stalin. Like I don't think it'd be a great double bill to go through.
That's a satire, so I'm fine with that. With this, this is meant to be like an actual retelling, and I had such a problem with that. I was like, just get Russian actors, do what you got to do, and even if we have to read subtitles, I would appreciate that more. That would ground me in it more. As such, it's very well edited, very tense, great TV. Yeah. But if you've got to get over that initial hurdle, and that's tough for me to get over sometimes because it keeps, I don't know, it like sticks out to me like a sore thumb all the time.
Yeah, for me, as far as what I'm going to be doing during my quarantine, I mean, I've got not only Chernobyl to get through, I've got Westworld to get through at some point. I started watching Westworld. I'm like 4 or 5 episodes in about 2 or 3 years ago, and then never went back to it. So I need to go back and watch that. I've also got a Coen Brothers collection, which I want to watch for as well.
I have begun rewatching one of the greatest shows of our lifetime that we probably all three grew up with, Even Stevens.
Hey,
I got the Disney Plus VPN trick, so I've had Disney Plus for a month, but you can't obviously it's on my laptop, so I've just been watching a lot of Even Stevens, and it just brings back childhood memories, and they're like nice memories too. And then it's memories like, oh my god, I remember going to watch Transformers, like, oh my god, it's Even Stevens, and I still love it. But there's a lot of telly to watch. Westworld I've not seen. I really want to watch it. I've heard so much stuff about it. I know, is it Jonathan Nolan and somebody else, isn't it? It's Chris Nolan's younger brother.
Oh, I'm not sure on that one.
And then I still want to watch Watchmen, which was meant to be amazing.
Oh, Watchmen's phenomenal. I've watched the series,
and he refused. Fantastic. And he refused the second season, didn't he? They begged him, and he said he's not doing it, which I've also got a massive amount of respect for.
Yeah,
he probably didn't tell them that in his original pitch that he intended it to be one season. But
I need to see Watchmen. I need to see Witcher.
I haven't seen that either.
TV is a big commitment, though. I mean, we've got nothing but time at the moment, but even then, it's sort of like I want to distribute my time around to a lot of things.
With TV at the moment, it's usually just like, oh, I'm going to bed. I'll sit on my bed and just watch something on my laptop, like before I go to sleep. So you can usually bash out like an episode then. And then maybe if you're getting up and you're lazy because you don't actually have work because it's pointless doing ski instructing when the slopes are closed and you're back in England, then you maybe watch an episode before you get up and do anything else. Like, it's just something that you can get through gradually every single day. Yeah.
We have a question from Holly Wright.
Yes, we do.
Random one. Who's your favourite James Bond? And who do you think would be an amazing James Bond for the future? Rick Mail would have been a brilliant James Bond. Can you imagine it, Chris? I would pay good money to have watched, not necessarily him as James Bond, but his character from just to watch Rick from the young ones.
Oh yeah,
just him, sort of walking into MI6 like off that chair and sticking his fingers up and like walking off. But no, that's a good question. That's a very good question because we always have a lot of James Bond discussions.
I feel like I'm very unqualified to answer this question, having not actually properly seen beginning to end the Dalton Bonds or the Brosnan ones.
Wow,
I've seen
really?
scenes of the Brosnan ones, yeah. So my frame of reference are kind of the most recent Bond and then the original 3 Bonds. For me, I mean, I think if I watched it, I've seen some scenes. I think actually Dalton might be up there from like the few very scant scenes I've watched. But as I haven't seen any of his 2 films fully, I don't feel like I can pick him. I'm going to have to go Connery just for like, you know, the history of the character. That opening scene, James Bond is absolutely iconic. But yeah. I've got a lot of love for the Roger Moore ones. I'm not going to lie. I think the Roger Moore ones nailed the tone for me. When I think of campy Bond, that's the Bond that I think of, and that's the one that I have the most fun with. So I'm gonna say Connery, the safe answer, but I think I prefer the more Bond movies more so than the Connery ones.
I started rewatching them, so I'd just seen all the Connerys, and I hadn't started the Roger Moores yet, thank God, because I've never been a massive fan of all of them. I think is a nicer way of saying it. I love the first couple, then I drop off. It's such an interesting question because sort of favorite Bond is better than best Bond as a question. I prefer that because best is like, it's like the Joker, right? Who's the best Joker? We've all got our answer, but it's a different take on the same character. Some of the Bonds are like that, I guess, but my favorite Bond is Pierce Brosnan. It probably always will be.
He was good. He was good.
Yeah, he was.
I think it's an era thing. It's the famous How I Met Your Mother Ewok debate. Depends what age you were when you first watched them and saw them, and that will affect how you view them for the rest of your life. So I have very fond memories of The World's Not Enough on PS1, not GoldenEye N64. My Bond gaming memory is The World's Not Enough, which I, to this day, only remember doing the first level over and over and going to a casino. So I'd always say Pierce Brosnan. I think he was a good blend of a bit of everyone. Not necessarily had a dark side to him, but he's the kind of middle ground between Sean Connery and Roger Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I thought he had the best of both worlds, and I think he deserved better films.
For me, I mean, I've got a picture of Sean Connery in my room. He's my favorite Bond, but he doesn't do my favorite Bond films, if that makes sense. He's my favorite as a character. But given the material that they've done, I'd probably pick Roger Moore as far as favorite Bond films. So if I'm looking at my favorite Bond films of all time, I'd immediately go to the Roger Moore collection. But if I'm picking my favorite Bond, it's absolutely Sean Connery. Mm-hmm. There is no doubt at all. As far as playing a future Bond, I've always said Damian Lewis, but I'm not sure whether he'd be too old for the role now. I feel like he could still play quite a suave Bond, and I think he'd be a very, very good shout for it. I've seen other people's names floating around. Like I've seen like Richard Madden, people saying like Henry Cavill won't play it. He's Superman. He can't play Bond. That would just be.
Is he now? I thought he left.
He's Superman no more.
He has played Superman. It makes it very difficult for me to believe him to play Bond. I've seen people also suggesting people like Idris Elba and stuff like that. I don't see that. I don't see that at all. Like I see Idris Elba as that as what's his face Luther. Like that hard Luther. Detective John Luther and stuff like that. I can't see him as anything else. Same with like someone like Tom Hardy. Like he's too
Brutish,
well known as that actor.
Yeah.
If you were going for someone non-British, because they have had they've had George Lazenby
But he was
Perfect.
bullied off it because he did it. He did one, and they all hated him because he wasn't
The
English.
film itself was one of the best Bond films. People forget about that. On Her Majesty's Secret Service, I'd put in my top 3 Bond films of all time. Honestly.
It's in my top 5. It's in my top 5. But he's the worst Bond, and it's not because he did one film. He was a bad Bond in.
He wasn't an actor. That's the problem. But if you get an actor who you know can do British accents, who you know looks like a Bond and could easily play the role, who is diverse and has also done work with stunts, I'd say pick Carl Urban.
Carl Urban's New Zealander.
Oh no,
pick Carl Urban. He can do a British accent. He can do a good British accent.
He's dread. You can't do it. You can't do it. Although you talk about like the whole, cast an American or whatever, you'd be cool with it. Didn't a lot of Americans get up in arms when Henry Cavill, a British actor, was cast as Superman, like the most memorable American icon ever? But he was. I mean, I didn't like those films he was in, but I thought it was a solid choice for Superman had he been given good material. Having seen Henry Cavill in person, that guy needs to be Bond. Straight up. That guy is Bond.
He could break if Henry Cavill broke your neck, you wouldn't mind having your neck broken by him.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So he's one of them. Like, he's the perfect fit. He is the specimen to play him. If there was another choice, it would be Richard Madden, but that seems a bit like a too obvious choice now. Never, ever liked the idea of Tom Hiddleston. I've always thought it'd be pathetic in a fight. I love Kong Skull Island, and unfortunately, Tom Hiddleston's not the best thing in it. No. He didn't work as the action lead.
It reminded me of the whole. I'm picking on Adrian Brody here in 2 films. The lead in King Kong and the lead in Predator. He's not a kind of like action leading man kind of character. He's quite a wet blanket in that regard. Fine actor for when he's like suited to a particular role, but not for that action lead. No way.
And Tom Hardy, as much as I love him, he's a very, very good actor. But yeah, he's not.
He's your Dave Bautista kind of character from the previous ones.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Dunkirk, what was the quote Nolan said? He gets more expression out of his eyebrows than most actors can in their whole body, which is an unreal line. And as great as he is, I don't think he could do Bond. I don't think. I love Tom Hardy. I know he pulled off Bane, and that transformation to this day is still in. I mean, I saw it again at the weekend. It's still like scary to think how Tom Hardy went from that to that so quickly. I think his best film, like physique-wise, though, was still Warrior. I just can't see him as Bond. I don't know what it is. I think he's a fantastic actor, and unfortunately, he's Venom.
Yeah.
Hey, but they haven't said if they've cancelled Morbius the Vampire yet, have they?
Oh, they're not going to cancel that. And to be honest, now that Michael Keaton's in it, I kind of don't want them to. I just want to see how that whole thing's going to play out with Marvel.
I absolutely adore the fact that, did you guys see on the news about Jared Leto? He went to meditate in the desert for 2 weeks, and he didn't know about coronavirus impacting them until he flew home to America. That really made me laugh. I'm
seeing a lot of websites. I'm not diving into the rabbit hole here, but I'm seeing a lot of websites saying Nicholas Hoult.
I don't think he could do that.
He would make a good Q.
Yes, yeah,
he's
too wimpy. He's too dweeby for that kind of role.
But if you're looking for someone who could fit that role, I mean,
Henry Cavill.
Back in the day of like Inglourious Basterds, I'd have said Michael Fassbender for a while.
He was always spoke about. I think he's got the suave. The whole bar scene. I think Fassbender's always been a good shout. The problem with Bond, which most people always forget, is that it's going to not ruin your life, but your whole career has to be based. I mean, we say Marvel people have it bad. It's like, oh, you're going to do this, that, and there. Bond seems more locked down about what they can and can't do between Bond films. I mean, you only got to like Google any Daniel Craig interview, and you've also got to see him advertise his other films where he's having a blast because it's so different. And
I think give it 3 or 4 years, maybe George McKay. No,
I love him, but I couldn't. He's too nice and polite. Like, he wouldn't ask someone to shake a martini; he'd shake it for them. Do you know what I mean? I think with Bond, you got to think it. You got to think long term. I mean, Dalton was unlucky, but they wanted Pierce Brosnan when they got Dalton, and they got him 10 years later. Henry Cavill was the number 2, and they said he was too young when they hired Daniel Craig. Henry Cavill's only is like what, mid to late 30s now. You got 10 years there.
I mean, how old was Daniel Craig when he took on Bond? Because he's now the oldest living person to play Bond.
He's had it longest in terms of year between film one and final.
He's also he's older in this film. He's older in this film than Roger Moore was in View to a Kill.
He doesn't look as bad. He's not as creepy.
Previous oldest Bond.
But Daniel Craig's had it for the most amount of years. So 06 was Casino Royale, 20 is this, 14 years.
Roger Moore but he's only done 4 films.
I know. Well, that's modern cinema, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And obviously, they've had this film's been delayed when it comes out 4 times. Skyfall got delays loads. Spectre was out quite quick. I think it says it all when Sam Mendes said making 1917 was easier than any of his 2 Bond films. Yeah. I think that's quite like a deafening statement about the sort of the issues. Now, we've got a couple of other questions coming in, but I want to kind of finish off. Well, no, sorry, we've got another Bond question of Holly, but I want to chuck in another one now, which we're all going to maybe have the same answer. Who do you want to direct a Bond film?
Oh, okay. Well, we know where George is going with this one.
I know where George is going.
I'm going to think of one that's not Nolan to make it try and See, it's a good question because there's so much. It's like who can handle it, who can do the action, who can. I don't want to say Christopher McQuarrie because Mission Impossible is perfect.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. Yeah, but it'd be too similar. It'd be way too similar.
Mission Impossible is in its own category now of like unreal.
I'd love to see what a Garth Evans Bond film would look like. Gareth Evans.
Yeah, Gangs of London starts soon, doesn't it? That's his new show.
That I know, and I'm intrigued by it. Like the action would be phenomenal. It would be an upgrade to most of the other Bond films, but it's whether he'd be able to like weave in the plot or not. However,
I mean, to be fair to Raid 2 is like Godfather 2.
Raid 2 is Godfather 2.
I mean, we know that Raid 1 is, here's an action film. Raid 2 was like, here's the story, and then the action follows. I think he could pull it off. I think that'd be a very interesting bet. I'm sure we'd get the Raid guys in there as well. You can forget your Casino Royale parkour. You're just going to have the most like unreal fist fight there's ever been. I actually don't know. I've never had to think of it because I've always had the same answer.
I'm drawing a blank on trying to think of anyone else.
I'm very happy Danny Boyle.
I think I've got someone.
I'm happy Danny Boyle was gone. I did not want Danny Boyle. I don't think he suited Bond, and I think that they did well to end that before it started filming.
How would you guys feel about Nicholas Winding Refn, or however you pronounce his name? Guy directed Drive.
Only God Forgives. I've not seen much from recently.
For a film in the same kind of vein as kind of You Only Live Twice, so looking at kind of because he's delved into Asian roots before with Only God Forgives, and a lot of his films. I mean, he did the Neon Demon as well. A lot of his films are all to do with like that kind of side of the world, but he also did Bronson. So he's got a good repertoire as far as films are concerning. I think he could probably do a Bond film.
I think there's one director that's really over me grown over the years. I've not seen all of this film, but I really like James Mangold.
Yeah, that's a good shout. That's a very good shout. I
Walk the Line for the first time a few months back. I don't know much about Johnny Cash except a couple of songs, and I loved that. I thought that was great. Absolutely adore Logan. I thought Ford v Ferrari was very, very good. I know we kind of said it should have been it for best film. It shouldn't have, but it was still a very good film.
No, I'll agree with that. I will.
You think of the car scenes in that as well, I think you got it. I think you got it bang on.
And he may be directing Indiana Jones 5, which was supposedly going to be an announcement at the big event, which I don't want anyone else to direct except for Spielberg, but when they said that name, I kind of thought, I was like, you know what? Never mind. But no, that's my Bond director. Do you want me to go over Holly's question?
Yeah, we'll finish the Bond whammy and then we'll move on to another question.
Who was your favourite baddie in the Bond films? Now, that is a very good question.
Again, I haven't seen them all, so I'm sort of reaching back through all the ones I know. You have Blofeld. You have many incarnations of Blofeld.
Various different ones. The best incarnation of Blofeld was Diamonds Are Forever Blofeld.
But I hate Diamonds Are Forever. That's always been one of my issues.
Yeah, that's one of my least
it's the best incarnation of Blofeld.
One of the randomest things and most confusing things in film history for me was that one of the actors who I think plays Blofeld in one of them plays another character in an earlier Bond movie. And every single time I watched that, I was like, was that meant to be Blofeld in disguise? But oh no, it's a completely different character.
Are we allowing side villains here? Because my favorite side villain is Jaws. Absolutely, no doubt.
Well, he gets a full-on character arc by the time
he gets two films. He gets two films and a full-on character arc. He is by far the best side. As far as my kind of childhood watching Bond, The Spy Who Loved Me is my favorite Bond film, by the way. My top three made up would be Spy Who Loved Me, Casino Royale, and On Her Majesty's Secret Service. But
I think my favorite, I've got to go with classic. I've got to go Christopher Lee on this one. Scaramanga from Man with a Golden Gun. That's in my top three favorite Bond movies. That's the one that is most memorable. Having watched them like back to back years ago, and I know we're in the process of starting to go through them again. Thank God now we've got till November, so we've got plenty of time to get all those movies watched. That's the one that is most memorable to me in terms of the villain, the sidekick of the villain, the ending action peak, just everything about that film I love.
There was one of my friends at school was a spitting image of Knick Knack, and he wasn't small, but he wasn't he wasn't small, but he was smaller than us in our age group. That makes sense, just like below average height. But we called him when I think for one of my Christmases, whenever Quantum of Solace came out, I bought this James Bond encyclopedia. I used to bring it into school to read because everyone loved James Bond in our form group, and obviously everyone discovered that he was Knick Knack in the same room. And he was terrorized for the next sort of 3 years that followed it. So I've got mad respect for Knick Knack for that. Bond's the best. I've always had a soft spot for the Chief. I don't, but then you think about it, and he's a bit of a loser, really. He keeps losing all his casino.
That's the problem for me. I think that his send off at the end of that film isn't befitting of his character, because before that point he was very intimidating, and I really did like his character.
And that's the thing, I love Le Chiffre. He's one of my favorite Bond villains. But if we're going over the question, which was what is your favorite, but I love Scaramanga.
Bond villain.
Yeah.
What's his face? 006.
Sean Bean.
Absolutely. What was it? Alex Rebellion or whatever it's called?
Loved Sean Bean in it. It's a hard question because with Bond, who do you go for? Like, it can change on like any given day. I always loved Goldfinger, but it's too traditional. It's the sort of that's more the film, but the film is named after the villain. What I will say, I think I'd probably settle with Le Chiffre, but I will say that I think Rami Malek has the potential. I know they got him off the back of the Oscar, but from what I've sort of heard about, like, you know, his only sort of signing on rule was that he couldn't play like a religious terrorist or anything. Yeah. So they call him the eco-terrorist. And it would be absolutely incredible if his villainous plan was to release a virus upon the world.
That's what a lot of people are saying. I've seen this online. Seriously, it was like it wasn't a leak or anything like that. They were saying, "Is the new Bond film about releasing a virus?" I was like,
they jumped the gun. They jumped the gun really quickly because they kept saying he was an eco-terrorist, but they jumped the gun very quickly in terms of coronavirus and the release date. And we know it's for money, but
best viral marketing ever. Literally viral marketing.
Let's go over we've got some Hennox in the comments. Yes. He's put favorite films, Dr. No. And then he's speaking about Daniel Craig. And he says Sean Connery's his go-to Bond. Rami Malek might have made a good Bond.
Who's your favorite Bond girl? Solitaire. There is no other answer. It's Solitaire.
It's
Solitaire or Eva Green.
I would cherish Eva Green every day of my waking life.
And that's
honestly, Ana de Armas could top that all.
Ana de Armas is now with Ben Affleck, which is one of the most.
Don't ruin dreams, man. Don't ruin dreams.
It's like in the space of a day, like Julia Fox, like divorced her husband, and then like Ana de Armas is with Ben Affleck, and everyone's going mad.
Ben Affleck dating J-Lo, isn't she Cuban as well?
I don't know, but he's
got a type.
Yeah. What makes it more incredible is the story about, you know, they're filming, well, not anymore. You know, they were doing that last duel with him, Matt Damon, and Adam Driver.
Yeah.
They were like, apparently, like all of Ben Affleck's presents he sent to his son for his birthday, like got lost in the post. So like Adam Driver recorded a video pretending to be Kylo Ren and just sent it to his son. I was like, "There's your present." That's pretty sick. That's the almighty powerful 1%. Like, if you don't have any friend in the world, it's I will be Kylo Ren. The last ever performance of Kylo Ren was a WhatsApp video sent by Adam Driver. Let that sink in. Don't get the radar started. But no, Bond. I think that's some good.
We did have another question buried into the crowd from Holly Wright. Best Joker.
That's a hard one.
This is, how do you rank this? Are we talking strictly live action here? We including Mark Hamill. If you include Mark Hamill, it's a game over instantly because he is the best Joker. If we're talking live action, I've always said it. You know my love for Batman '89. I've got to go Jack Nicholson, purely for nostalgia for me. I love Jack Nicholson. He's one of my favorite actors, and he's so charismatic. Going to see 1989 again when they released it. I think, was it last year or the year before? Whenever they did the rescreening of that movie, it was a blast. Like, he's amazing. He is probably more prominent. He is top billed over Michael Keaton in that movie. He absolutely makes that movie his own. That's not taking anything away from Heath Ledger or Joaquin Phoenix. Obviously, tremendous performances.
I love how you didn't even mention the other one.
Oh, there was one I was going to say. There is no incorrect answer except Aralesso. Like, a very, very well-made argument can be made for anyone. Steve Romero, Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, Hamill, Joaquin. Any of them can win any argument. There's only one that cannot. Not even Birds of Prey wanted him to be involved. Let that sink in as well. They didn't want him in. They even made that animated flashback Joker looked nothing like him either. I think that's done. Personally, I'll always say Heath Ledger.
I would also say Heath Ledger.
I love Joaquin. I think Heath Ledger, and I mean, again, anyone. Chris is right. If you bring a voice in, you have to put Hamill. You have to.
Yeah.
Arkham games. I've not seen Mask of the Phantasm, but then you've got the animated series as well. For what Mark Hamill's done with that character over sort of 20 years, that's a long duration. And again, most people don't know it's Mark Hamill. When you find out Mark Hamill, I remember the day I found out the Joker was Luke Skywalker. That was traumatizing. And I think that's how good he is, that you can get some voice actors or some characters where, you chuck them in a game or something and you can hear them a mile away, it takes you out of it. But Hamill's never, ever had that. He's so perfect. And again, it's your take on the character. I think Hamill's is the most accurate of the comic books brought into the cartoons, brought into the games. I think Jack Nicholson perfectly captures what he was doing. I think Jack Nicholson's the closest to a live action comic book take on it, would you say, Chris? Like in, the Wonderful Toys, the origin, the tank, the weapons, everything, the craziness that you got, the paints in the museum, the Prince soundtrack, it's all great. Then you've got Heath Ledger, which is, to me, that blew the entire world away. That's not what anyone expected for that take. For the Nolan verse, I guess you can say, it couldn't have been done any other way. And then you've got Joaquin for the character study. Here's a 2-hour film about this one person driving into craziness. Any of them on any given day. Mine, I always go to I will pick Heath Ledger. But again, it's not like here's one, there's the other 5. It's sort of they're all there.
Yeah. I completely agree. You don't even. Who was it? I saw someone put up on Instagram, putting Leto on a top list of Jokers. I was like, oh.
Was there a cover photo of a relationship goal on Harley Quinn?
On the subject of Batman, though, I did want to sort of take us onto more Batman news because we haven't really talked about it openly on the channel before. I've just gone and saved some photos. Hopefully that's sharing right there. We've had some pictures released of the suit, some set videos and everything of Matt Reeves' upcoming Batman trilogy. I've even seen some rumors recently of Johnny Depp is meant to be rumored casting for the Joker. I don't know if that's just clickbait articles you see on the internet. It probably is.
You wouldn't mind that at this stage.
My issue is, I mean, I love Johnny Depp, and I think he's the best thing about Fantastic Beasts. Yes, it's still a thing. Mm-hmm. We've had me and Chris Meany both said something. We don't want the Joker, but then you do want the Joker.
It's the thing. With I remember when Johnny Depp was. This was when Batman 3 was coming out, when it was given that title before we even had Dark Knight Rises, where it was rumored that the Riddler's going to be the villain, Johnny Depp's going to play him, and then
Leonardo DiCaprio, yeah,
because it was following Inception. You had all these crazy rumors. The thing is with Johnny Depp, it seems like very easy casting, and it's like I quite like a casting out of left field that you don't see.
As far as a villain for these films are concerned, I really want to see Court of Owls. Possibly, maybe Deathstroke would be quite a fun villain to see.
Well, we know for the first movie, at least, we've got like a hodgepodge of villains. We've got Penguin in there. I think some of these characters are probably just going to be setups for like the second or third part, if it is going to tell. And that's going to be an interesting point. Is this trilogy going to tell a complete story? Or is this going to be like Planet of the Apes, where it's going to time jump every few years, like to tell the full story of Batman? In terms of these set photos, everyone's bad-mouthing the suit. It is just a stunt performer's suit that we've seen so far. I mean, I know that video did come out of the first video that was released that looked very Daredevil-like and everything like that. I think I can just bring up a picture of that now. Yeah, so this one here, that was the first thing that got released. I'm not too keen on the cowl from what I've seen so far, but I guarantee get that proper movie lighting in there, post-production, no one's going to have a problem with it. It still looks like Batman. But I really, having seen the Batmobile picture, the picture that I just uploaded, and then a bunch of other ones were released as well, I can now kind of see what tone I think Matt Reeves is going for with this one. Let me just bring up this one. This is one of my favorites as well. That you look at the car, and I think, George, you said it best when it first came out. You compared it to Mad Max. It looks like a muscle car. You could imagine that it doesn't look as heightened as, say, the Snyder Universe or anything like that, or the Arkham games, but you could imagine that someone would take a souped-up car like this, rip it out, throw like a super-powered engine into it and everything like that. It's going to contain all his gadgets. It looks like what Matt Reeves has been saying, like a noir film. If this is going to be more detective Batman, sort of driving from location to location, almost like a Blade Runner-esque feel to it kind of thing, like gritty, underbelly, rainy, everything like that. I think this is nailing it if this is the tone that they're going for.
It looks like a blend of all the sort of the photos, the lighting. It's almost like a mix between like Tim Burton and Nolan. Not to compare them because it is going to be its own take, but it's right. The Mad Max, the noir, that's like an not underground tunnel, but that's like like an old byway that someone's driving through. And the car did throw me. I don't know why. I'm obviously it'll probably look a lot better in the film with the proper stuff. It's still a sad thing about the Ben Affleck one because I still think his performance in not Man of Steel, in Batman v Superman was incredible, and we all know he only signed up for that to be able to direct his own Batman film after. I think it was best for all parties when Matt Reeves took over. I think that kind of signaled the end of Batfleck. I know that he's done an interview recently where he says that obviously when he turned to alcohol and stuff, playing Batman was like nowhere near on his priority of what he wanted to do. Kind of made comments at Justice League for kind of being that way. Don't think that's Ben Affleck's fault about Justice League. I think he was sold a lie, and unfortunately, he probably had a multi-film contract at that point, which he probably has to Justice League. I'm very intrigued for this. I think Rob Pattinson's grown into one of the post Twilight, one of the better actors. I'm going to say one of the best actors, but he certainly has.
It's weird. He's gone from this actor, which was always kind of put into that kind of category of he was in the Twilight films, and he was even bashing the Twilight films whilst they were still being put out.
Oh yeah,
I'm surprised they kept him on because he was hating on those films so hard and everything like that. But he's now turned into an actor who I could easily see winning either a Best Supporting Actor or possibly even the Best Actor at the Oscars in the future at some stage.
I mean, I saw him in Good Time, which was great, which was the Sadfi brothers who did Uncut Gems. Obviously, Lighthouse I finally saw, which I think was great. I think him and Kristen Stewart, I've not seen enough of her films, but post-Twilight, both of them seem to have
done very well. She has done very, very well.
Put their heads down, done a lot of indie dramas. The difference is that Rob Pattinson's going to come back into limelight with the blockbuster being Batman, whereas Kristen Stewart's went completely the wrong way by doing... was it Charlie's Angels she was in?
Yeah.
And it was like, for the people that haven't known she's done very, very well for the last sort of 9 years, It's, oh look, it's Bella from Twilight and she's in this. So it's about not how you sell yourself, because it shouldn't come down to that, but the general public will be, they've done nothing for years. And it's like, well, actually, no. Rob Pattinson's done a lot, and it'd be very interesting to see his take on Batman. And he's going to be in Tenet, which is coming out first, which I think is very smart as well, because there'll be a lot of people that see Tenet, and then they'll be, oh, look, he's the new Batman. And I'm very intrigued. Again, I'm always going to hype that film up, but I'm also, with the Pattinson Batman film, the supporting cast, I think is important. I think the beauty of the Nolan films, more so than the originals, maybe Batman 60s is in the same category, that the supporting cast for the Nolan film is treated as important as the sort of Batman himself and the villain. I think, you look at, you got Michael Caine, you've got not Lucius Fox, Morgan Freeman, Gary Oldman, you've got all these incredible actors. And I think that was one of the things with the Dark Knight films which really blew me away was, Cillian Murphy cropping up for 2 cameos in 2 films. It was everyone that was picked for it. And I think certainly with Matt Reeves' cast, there's a very solid set of names, not just names, but people who I think can sort of blend into that universe and just add another dimension to it. Yeah,
definitely. And I think the characters they've got at the moment are very important, and I think could be very cool. Obviously, we've got oh god, what's his name? Irish actor
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell, thank you, as Oswald Cobblepot. Whether he's going to be full on the Penguin in this movie, we don't know. We've got Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle, and we've got that dude from There Will Be Blood that isn't the main actor playing the Riddler. I forget his name, but when I saw him, I was like, okay, I can be the Riddler.
Paul Dano, yeah, the freak.
Yeah, he's excellent. Have you? I got you to watch Swiss Army Man.
Oh, of course he is. Yeah,
is that the farting film?
Yes, it's a great film, by the way.
It was all right,
not just a farting film.
But especially if you're going to have like Batman as this detective, I think that having Riddler be your main villain makes a lot of sense for that. If you're going to have that as your tone for your first movie,
definitely. Right, Batman. Henrix put in the comments: Robert Pattinson, is he staying on? Yes. Ben Affleck, he sucks. I disagree.
Material he was given.
Yes.
If he was given good material, I think he could have been the best. 100%.
Again, his half of Batman v Superman, except the fact he sort of murders everyone and has like a turret in his car. I thought, that scene where he's like pulling the tires as a workout, that's Batfleck, and he is going to destroy people. There's just some ludicrous moments. I think someone mentioned to me a few weeks ago the first sort of scene of the film where Batman's like in the corner, is like a spider on the wall, and it just looks ridiculous. But then you get some incredible moments. Obviously, everyone always goes to the warehouse fights.
Yeah. Still the best Batman fight scene in live action.
Live action Arkham.
It's the Arkham games come to life on screen. Yeah, and like you see him, and I see Bruce Wayne. He looks the part, like he looks like that billionaire playboy kind of thing. The bit where he's sort of being drunk at these big social gatherings, like pretending to be drunk at social gatherings, and then he's bombing off doing some kind of secret thing. That's so Bruce Wayne. The training montage, just everything. I even like the look of the suit. The look of the suit grew on me as well after a while. I thought he nailed the voice. Just everything about it. It's just I would have liked to have seen him get at least one of his own movies, so we could like rank it as a standalone piece rather than a part of something that they were trying to make much bigger. It's just a shame how it turned out, and I do feel bad for him because what that was teeing up to be. Because you can clearly tell he was trying to be hot off the heels of Nolan, and he was inspired by what Nolan did with that character and how he directed that trilogy. It's a shame how it turned out, but we from the ashes we have Matt Reeves, and I love the last 2 Planet of the Apes movies. I think he knows the character. I think he's going to do it a lot of justice, and I'm looking forward to seeing it continue. That's why I love Batman and like James Bond and things like that. These legacy characters where I'm always interested to see who's going to be the new Batman, who's doing the music, who's directing it, what's the Batmobile going to look like.
And that's the thing. I think with franchise like that, there are some films where you wouldn't want anyone to touch ever. Don't go near it ever again. And there are some very protected films. But then you do have your exceptions, your Batmans, your Bonds. As you mentioned, there is a film that I'm desperate to see. Even Spider-Man, even though we know it's already peaked. If they turned around tomorrow and said there's going to be another live-action Spider-Man, I'm still going to be interested. I think there is space for these characters to have like the comics get rebooted every 5-10 years these days, don't they? And it's always interesting of, who's going to play this, who's going to play that, how is this world going to be done, and how is it going to tie in. So I like that, and it also makes it funner, like just gives you a bit of excitement leading up into the film. And there's obviously some you wouldn't ever want to be touched. I mean, I'm not the biggest Lord of the Rings fan, but if another human being ever said, I'm going to make a new Lord of the Rings film, would never happen. No.
It's going to happen. It will happen. I think the Amazon series is the Kickstarter. I don't think it will be for a while. But with Star Wars, for example, when they bring out new movies, it's still part of the whole. So you're never going to get like a remake of Star Wars because it's just sort of...
I don't think you can. I think Lord of the Rings is the same. I don't think you can ever touch them three, the timeline points.
I don't know. It's a book, isn't it? It's a readaptation. I'd rather see a readaptation of The Hobbit in some respect, whether it's a TV series, like a 10-episode TV series. I think that could work very well, or whether it's a new movie. I'd rather see that before I see Lord of the Rings, but it'll happen. It will happen because Lord of the Rings isn't ongoing. As far as we know, this Amazon series, it's a complete from the ground up readaptation, reimagining. It's not tying into the movies as we know so far. They've cast a young Galadriel, completely different actress. Obviously, it's not Kate Blanchett. So I think to me, it's going to depend on what the TV series is like. If the TV series is fantastic, knocks it out of the park, as loath as I am to say it, and as much as they are my favorite movies, I'm like, sure, show me what you got. Maybe keep it closer to the book, for example. And there are different ways you could do it, but it's tough. It's those classic films you don't want to see touched.
We have some more questions coming in. We've actually got a few to go through. So first of all, Holly Wright once again, what's the one film you always find yourself reaching for, your most watched beloved film, and why?
Oh, that depends on...
I've got one film where it's not my favorite film of all time, but it's one where I can literally throw it on any situation, and that is Snatch. Like, I can be in any mood at all, I will throw Snatch on, even if I've seen it a few days before. It's one of those films where you can just go back to it over and over again. It has this weird draw to it, which other films, which I prefer to Snatch, don't have. Like, it's got to the stage now where my favorite films to watch, I watch for special occasions. Like, if I'm going to go and watch something like Gattaca or Whiplash or even something like La La Land or something like that, one of my top films in my rankings of films, I've got to be in the right frame of mind to go and watch it. I've got to be in that frame of mind to go, okay, I'm going to go and now watch this film because I love it so much and I want to take time and have it, like, pay attention to it almost. With Snatch, I could watch it and pay attention. I could have it on the background. Doesn't matter. It's still going to be that film that I will reach for, which is interesting because it isn't.
I never thought you'd like Snatch. I'm struggling to.
I fucking love Snatch.
I mean, I love Brad Pitt in it. I didn't like anyone else.
Yeah,
that's really thrown me. I couldn't have seen that. My easy, boring choice is Star Wars because also now there's 11 of them to pick. So I'm actually not going to pick. The one I've always resonated to is Dumb and Dumber.
Damn it, you stole mine. You stole mine. That's where I was going.
It's true that it doesn't matter what mood you're in, good mood, bad mood, horrible mood, or you want to watch the best Oscar film in the world, but you get to D on your alphabet library and it says Dumb and Dumber, and you're like, you know what? This is the one for me.
100%.
It's the ultimate. It's not even a feel-good film. It's just like, that's just entertainment. I don't know. There's always been something as a kid. Comedies don't really make me laugh. The more you watch a comedy, the less you laugh, and that's the case of anything. But even after all these years, I will always laugh at Dumb and Dumber. I don't know why.
Same. I've lost count of how many times I've watched Dumb and Dumber, and it hasn't got old, and it never will.
I've only seen it once.
In terms of like most beloved film that you could throw on any time, they're two different lists to me. Lord of the Rings is obviously my favorite film, but they're a big commitment in terms of runtime. I ain't gonna lie to you, and it's not one that I would throw on all the time. But yeah, Dumb and Dumber. If it's on TV, if it's 3/4 of the way through, if it's halfway through, if it's just starting, I will always continue watching it from whichever point it's at. It's amazing. And that comedy duo between Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey, it's just so synonymous of the 90s as well, and it reminds me of growing up. It's a movie made for teenage boys, essentially. in terms of the humor of it, and it's fantastic. I love that.
I have actually a confession to you, Chris. I have actually thrown on Lord of the Rings before out of sheer boredom, and it was a time where I literally put in the Two Towers disc and skipped it to Helm's Deep, and then just watched Helm's Deep, and then turned.
Wait, you started in the second film as well? To be fair,
should we move on to the next question?
I just watched Helm's Deep. No, it was at the time I was like,
that reminds me of when
I don't watch all three of the Lord of the Rings, but I do kind of want to watch Helm's Deep.
That reminds me when I was 6 years old. Like when I had Attack of the Clones on DVD, I skipped the droid race, but not the droid race, the droid factory. But Helm's Deep is very different.
I will say, like, if there was one night before I was going to bed and I've got like an hour and 15, an hour and a half to watch a movie. I want to watch Lord of the Rings. I'll just pop in disc 2 of Two Towers and watch Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
If I had all day, Tate, I wouldn't just skip to the last part of the second movie. There's no excuse for that, mate.
Okay, next question. A film,
by the way, is asking how everyone's holding up. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good.
Danielle Dalton, a film you never expected to like but did, or a film that you thought expected you would be good that wasn't. For me, that film that you never expected to like but did was A Star Is Born. Truly and honestly, I had no expectations going into that film at all and absolutely fell in love with it immediately. It just completely swept me off my feet and completely surprised me in the cinema as I was sat there sobbing at the end credits. A film that I expected would be good but wasn't is absolutely Prometheus. I'll go on to it till this day. I think my second YouTube video ever was me ranting for about 5 minutes about Prometheus. And I still stick by Prometheus being the most disappointing film I have ever seen, bar none. But those are my two films that I pick into those two categories.
Hey, which one did you prefer, Prometheus or Alien Covenant? Out of the two, gun to your head, which one's a better movie?
Covenant, easily a better movie. You've got the what's it called, the Michael Fassbender Temple of the Gods, kind of him walking around and stuff like that at the end. Love that bit. The rest of the film's pretty boring and pretty nonsensical, but Prometheus I had a burning hatred for. It was one of those things where I sat down in the cinema and my dad also had exactly the same feelings whilst watching it. It was just a boiling up inside of what the fuck are we watching? Like, what is this shit? Whereas Covenant, I kind of knew going into it, like, it can't get worse than Prometheus. So Prometheus here, Covenant's here, like all the other Alien films are somewhere up here. Like even Alien vs Predator 2 is somewhere in this range here. Like it's one of those things where it was not as bad, still bad, but not as bad. So it kind of made it better.
I don't mind Prometheus. I don't know if I've said this before, but I had rocket expectations, and then back in the day, you read Empire magazine.
This is like the Helm's Deep thing. Move on.
Check out the strength on Tayte, right?
I read Empire magazine the month before Prometheus came out, and it was Ridley Scott like, "Can people please stop calling this an Alien prequel? It's not." And then that kind of not broke me, but I was like, "Oh, like it's been called an Alien prequel for years, and now you're telling me it's not." So I just hadn't pretended it was nothing to do with Alien, and I don't mind it for what it is. I don't really know what it is, but it's not an Alien prequel. I just remember Charlize Theron running away, and Michael Fassbender's head popping out of somewhere. But yes, I can understand why people hate Prometheus. I think had I been a bit older, I mean, I was 15 when it came out, but I'm talking had I had like a deeper connection to Alien, I think that film would have broke me. Certainly, if I'd been hyped up at an announcement of a film and followed it for years to be told a month before, it's not Alien. After all, I didn't see Alien Covenant, so I can't give any thoughts on that. But if I'm going to go for what was the question? So is film you never expect, a film you thought would be good but wasn't? Star Wars Episode 9.
Yeah.
Did you really expect that to be good, though?
I enjoyed the other 10. Solo's kind of there, like, you know, it had a train wreck, there's sacked directors, it's not Han Solo, well, it's not Harrison Ford. Solo was kind of like, oh, you know, I had a really pleasant experience watching this. Episode 9, I knew the Emperor was going to be in it, but I still had my thoughts, you know, he's just going to be like a ghost or something. I didn't I could have took an abysmal
when Ian McDermott was coming back. Maybe you could have said he was going to be like a hologram or something. But as soon as that trailer came out, man, I was like, okay, no, he's back. He's back.
I didn't mind it. All I wanted to do was to sit down on that screen and think, wow, Star Wars is ending. This is going to be my swan song of life. And I just remember, and I didn't mind it at the start. I was like, why is this film going at 100 miles an hour? And that was a long day. I don't know if it was the day being long or if it was me watching the film. And then it got you have his power. You're a Palpatine. And I was like, nah.
I've seen two memes which have been quite funny from the coronavirus thing. And
it's the April Palpatine returns.
No, it's the what's it called? The come on, humanity hasn't been that bad. What did we do to deserve this? And then the first one is Star Wars Episode 9. The second one's Cats. So
I've not seen Cats, so I can't compare. But the problem is, and I know this is the wrong time for debate. There's someone that loves The Last Jedi and thinks it is still the second best Star Wars film, and I will say that many times. For someone that likes that, to then have here's a question: Rey is a Palpatine. It adds nothing.
It was so much better when her parents were no one. It was so much better.
It didn't mean anything if her dad was or wasn't Palpatine. It's a line that's added on that bears no resemblance to anything that happens afterwards.
Look,
it was there to appease people, and then you have the question of Palpatine had a bloody child, let alone a grandchild.
Well, the novel has thankfully cleared all that up now.
What's the thing? What they could have had was, because in the previous Star Wars films they had Luke, who was this farm boy who grew up to be a thing, and then suddenly he's the heir apparent to the Empire because he's the son of the most powerful or second most powerful person in the Empire. So you got that whole thing of that conflict. You could have had the whole thing of Rey just being a normal person and anyone can be a hero message being put out. Instead, you've got like, oh no, she's the heiress to the Empire. It's exactly the same as the previous films. You don't have to have the bloodline.
You got to get the Midichlorians in the bloodline, dude.
You don't. You fucking don't.
The bloodline is silent, and that's fine. Like I said again, one of the few, and I kind of when he died, evaporated. I sat there. I was expecting to cry manly tears. Like I am an Adam Driver stan. Like I'm overly obsessed with the film. He's my favorite actor now. I was expecting that. If I cried at episode 7 at the crawl of being overcome, I didn't take my glasses off when Han Solo died for half an hour. I did not cope. I was expecting something in 9, and it just left me hollow. And as that film finished, I remember standing up and loudly declaring bullshit and walked out.
Yeah.
I slept on it for a night. I saw it another 3 times. And every single time, there are things I like in it. It's fine. But when you hate Palpatine's involvement in it and it's too integral to the plot, I mean, we know her surname's not, but the Exegol and all that, I don't mind Exegol, but, it's just...
ruins the sacrifice of Vader in the original.
Exactly. I'm not going to swear and get carried away, but what's the point of episodes 1 through to 6? Now what's the point? There is
he wasn't the chosen one. He temporarily paused it, and then Rey stole the victory.
But she didn't even kill him either.
Well, this is the thing. Like, did he clone himself again?
He just rebounded his lightning. He killed himself. He went old after this time.
I'll wait for 2024, where we have Star Wars Episode 10, 11, and 12, where we have a new plucky person who finds the 2 lightsabers on Tatooine, and Palpatine comes back, and they have to
Baby Yoda
again, or Baby Yoda, or maybe they're going to do some time travel thing where they take Yoda back to the beginning, and it is actually Yoda after all, and they mess around with the timelines. Who knows? But hey, if it's true, Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano, I am totally down for that casting.
I think it's true. I think there was a rumor about a year ago, and they asked her, and she said I'd love to do it, and she physically actually. I know that Ahsoka's an alien. She actually looks a bit like her. She's got the chin and the facial structure. So I thought that's smart. If it is true, I'm not expecting it to be a big role in Mandalorian. I think episode or 2 an absolute maximum.
They'll probably tee up a separate Disney Plus TV series.
Talk of an animated series for Ahsoka. I know this is the wrong sort of chat for it, but Disappointment is nothing higher. The box set's out next month. I'm so excited to get all my Star Wars in 4K, and then it's like episode 9. I'm gonna rewatch them, have a joyous time from 1 through to 8, and then it's gonna get to Rise.
We have another question. What film
is
your?
Can I answer the other one at all?
Oh yeah, sure, sorry.
Okay, a film I never expected to like but did. Kick-Ass. The trailer. I wasn't a big fan of Superbad at the time. Since then, I've gone back and I really like Superbad now.
Great.
And the trailer, I thought this looks absolutely dreadful. Went to see it on a whim, and it was one of my favorite films of that year, 2010. Do I even need to answer this last one? Or a film you expected would be good and wasn't, in my opinion?
So yours will be Force Awakens.
Well, I mean, I did. The hype was there, as with everyone. Everyone had the hype there, and I knew from the first scene, I was like, "Oh, this isn't what I thought it was." Good.
Just a very quick point. Is it bad that I respect The Last Jedi more now after watching Rise of Skywalker?
I would have respected it more had Rian Johnson directed 9, so I could see fucking. Yeah. How are you going to tie this thing up, considering you've just everything dead in its tracks?
Instead, we got Knives Out, which is fantastic.
The failure is JJ should do all 3, or Ryan should have done 8 and 9. That's my issue. Yeah. It can't be both. It should have been 1 to do all 3 or 1 to do 2. It just didn't. And you know what? I read the god awful Duel of the Fates main. Well, I didn't read all of it, but I read a decent amount of that.
Elements of it.
There are elements of it are great, and there are elements that are abysmal, and the ending was somehow worse than the final version was.
Hogan is awful. What they do with those two in it is awful.
You can tell
Coruscant and the fight scene. I'm down for that. That was
exactly. It ties the 9 films together. Not a post credits. We're back on Tatooine to bury the lightsabers. Is that whoa? We're in Coruscant. This is proper prequel territory now. Doing the awful, not Morbius, but whatever that planet is that's in the Force. I get getting rid of that. That's just too deep. That's too random for the films.
You know what? I've come around to that story arc now. You'll be surprised. I hated that at first. Now I'm like, give me this lore. Give me all of this lore around the Force. Yeah, I'm down for it now. At least it would have been something new, right? At least it's taking it into a
dream in their heads.
Okay, the fact that they all forget about it at the end, I don't like. But the concept of the world and those characters is interesting. I like that.
For anyone who's watching at home, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Sorry. It's a story arc in the Clone Wars, and you've got they're basically like the gods of Star Wars, essentially.
Oh, the mother, the father, the son, and the daughter. Yeah, I know about that. Yeah.
Hey, and if you wanted to go in that territory for episode 9, which would have actually been quite fitting,
sure.
Dylan be the mother, Aboleth. I don't know if any of you guys know that character. If you go on to read all the lore about it, it would have tied it back into the ones. She's a very interesting character. Her motives and methods. And yeah, that would have been a good way to go. But hey, we didn't get that. The film I expected would be good and wasn't. I could go Avatar. I could go Dark Knight Rises. They're probably the big 2. Avatar was mostly down to the hype, and you were expecting it to be this game changer of sci-fi cinema, and you got there. And whilst it's probably not the worst movie in the world, it isn't all that. I don't think it's justifying of an Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5 or whatever we're getting. CGI's whatever. We have good CGI in every movie now, whether Avatar pioneered that or not. I'm sure it would have got to that point anyway. And the story was been there, done that, and I felt like I'd seen it 10 times over, and it didn't do anything new.
Pocahontas in space.
Exactly, yeah. Fern Gully, Last Samurai, Dances with Wolves, Chuck any Native American and the atrocities that the white men committed, and it's the same movie.
Yeah.
Right. Another question from I'm just going to check you haven't missed any. Nope. Right. Holly, right. What film is your guilty pleasure? Do not be embarrassed. Tell each other.
I'm going to go straight out the gate and say this now. Both Mamma Mia films are gems. No, really. Both Mamma Mia films are absolute gems, and I will happily sit down and watch them and sing along to them. Absolutely.
I'm looking at my shelf.
No. If you're looking at your shelf, we know what's on your shelf. We want to hear the dirty stuff, dude.
No, because I don't really know. I don't have shame about my films that I enjoy. So, I mean, just if I turn around and said Transformers original trilogy, that's not a guilty pleasure because they are fantastic. They are stunning. The silence says it all. But yeah, to some that's a guilty pleasure. To me, that's just honesty. We had a little mini discussion, didn't we, the other day on Facebook? It's been a while since I've seen them. I say trilogy, I do mean 1 and 3. I never really liked 2. I'm also going to chuck Mean Girls in there. I just think it's incredible. It's one of the best films. It taught me how to survive secondary school, and my sister showed it to me. And it's just about being a savage, and that's what you need to do at that age.
Guilty pleasure movies. I've got 2 coming to mind. I could probably think of more, but Batman and Robin is a big one for me. Love that movie to death. I unironically love that movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger gets a free pass for life. It's so quote worthy. It's so meme worthy. Just everything about that movie I love. And Rock of Ages with Tom Cruise, the jukebox musical that it is. It's the decade that I love the most. It's the soundtrack to my life. It's got some really cheesy performances in there. But man, I've watched that movie a ridiculous amount of times, more times than I care to admit. So Rock of Ages definitely is up there in terms of guilty pleasure lists for me. Can't think of anything else really.
It's hard because we're all quite honest with each other, aren't we? So
yeah, we are.
We don't have that kind of, what's he watched that he's not told anyone about. I don't think I've really had that.
I mean, according to you guys, Grand Budapest Hotel is a guilty pleasure movie.
No, because you enjoy it.
Oh, I fucking love it. You guys just hate it for some strange reason.
I wouldn't say that's a guilty pleasure movie because I know that it did get a lot of hype and it does have a lot of love out there. I'm just not those people that share that love.
I didn't. I liked one character in it. Well, the good thing about coronavirus, they'll probably delay his next film, so that saves us all.
No, absolutely not. This might be the year he wins the Oscar.
Well, he's probably got more chance of winning if they delay it from July to December.
Yeah.
But then if they delay Tenet to December too, then Lord Nolan shall shine. Although Dune's coming out, Hans Zimmer betrayed Christopher Nolan. He said, I've waited my whole life to do a soundtrack to Dune. And there's this brilliant meme of like a Photoshop of Christopher Nolan in the desert in sand, like looking up into the skies. Don't know if anyone's ever seen that before. It was like when Hans Zimmer picked Dune over Tenet. But Henrik has put, it's not really a question. I'm a fan of The Empire Strikes Back, though. I'm just reading his stuff.
Brinsley, he's put, I haven't seen The Mandalorian yet. You guys enjoy it overall? Well, you can check out our review on each of the episodes of Mandalorian if you want our full reviews, but I guess we can give a packaged one here.
Yeah, have you seen it first? All of Mando.
We've lost Tate.
Have we lost Tate, or is he?
No, I'm still here. Sorry.
Oh. Have you seen Mandalorian?
I have seen Mandalorian all the way through.
That's fine. Right, Mandalorian, as condensed as I can put it, you got 5.5 great episodes out of 8. It's kind of what Star Wars needs. I think my disappointment of episode 9 would have only been worse had I not been watching Mandalorian weekly before and after. I think I went a big way in recovering from that. It's exactly, I think, what Star Wars needed to go into live-action TV series. It distanced itself by a couple of moments away from the overly familiar tones. There are hints of it, but I think it did enough to be its own thing, to get its own fans and to sort of not market Disney Plus, but as a flagship show. I think everything's in place for it to be humongous as the years are going to go by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I won't say I loved it wholeheartedly, but I will admit when it finished, I was like, oh, I'm not going to get any Mandalorian to watch week to week now. It was a TV show that I really enjoyed watching week to week. I know that was a big thing that we talked about, was that with the likes of Netflix now, where you just kind of get 10 to 13 episodes just dumped, there you go, there it is. It was nice to go back to sort of like an old school TV show where week to week, you're coming up with theories about it, you're speculating about it, and you're looking forward to seeing it the next week. I'm with George on this one. Like, there's like 4.5 to 5 good solid episodes there. There's a lot of fat that could be trimmed out of it to make a more truncated story, but man, I was way more looking forward to Mandalorian week to week than I was any of the sequel trilogy films. And it's a nice back to basics approach for Star Wars. There are a lot of sort of wink, wink, nudge, nudge moments in there, and they're still sort of remember the Jawas, remember the Sandcrawlers, remember Tatooine.
This may spoil it for people, but I love that they had an episode of The Mandalorian purely based around one character trait that they introduced into the films after.
That's fine. Let's not say what it is, because Brinsley.
I'm not saying what it is.
That's fine.
I'm not saying it is. That's as vague as I can get.
That reveal was interesting because that episode I saw the morning of episode 9. So I saw that episode. Had that happen, I was like, I've never seen that before. That's very ballsy of them. And then I watched episode 9 that evening, and I was like, I saw that 12 hours ago.
Yeah.
And I still don't know if that was deliberate. It just the timing.
It had to be deliberate. It had to be. Come on.
That episode was airing earlier in the States as well, so it didn't clash with their release date of 9. That was a weird. It was. I don't know, because Disney Plus's release date was done so far in advance. They wouldn't have tied the release date of Disney Plus to have had that air the same week that the film could have come out. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I still think it's very risky.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
I was just going to talk about that traits. But what I was going to mention to Brinsley quickly, he says he's wanting to watch Disney Plus in the UK Mandalorian. Well, I've got some bad news for you, Brinsley. Tomorrow morning, when Disney Plus launches, it will launch with the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian. It will then be broadcast weekly on a Friday.
Oh man, you're kidding me!
Even though every single person has been tweeting them non-stop saying, we're all in quarantine now, can you not just give us all 8? Or you've got people like me saying, hey, I already saw the first 8 episodes 4 months ago. Can you just give me the 8 to watch in 4K? Even better than that, you're not even going to get 4K on Disney Plus, because Netflix and Disney, as asked by the governments and whatnot, obviously it's more political than actual Disney's fault, to help the bandwidth of the Europe, they're just shutting off 4K servers.
I've just seen. I know we didn't want to bring the news in or anything like that, but we've now been limited to 2 people gatherings in public.
What, in UK?
Yep.
I haven't checked the news. Sorry. 2
people maximum.
Right, who are we getting rid of on the stream then? Is it going to be George or is it going to be Tayte?
Rock, paper, scissors. Oh, Christ.
That's incredible. I can't wait to go for a walk by myself. I want to just start shouting at people that are walking the streets.
Well, I sure hope that I hang out with coronavirus. Otherwise, this whole 2 people gathering thing is just going to be really awkward.
Oh my God, what's happening?
I mean, it's going to be for people who don't have friends, right? Or only have like one friend. It's going to be.
I mean, they did a very similar thing out in Austria, but they did it per household, 5 people limited, and they said any social gathering of more than 5 people outside of the house as well would be dispersed. This isn't in a house. This is just when you're going out in public. So if you need to go shopping, shop in 2s maximum.
I mean,
all shopping except for non-essentials.
Correct.
Define essentials.
Supermarkets, nothing else will be open. So closed shops,
right?
Nothing else will be open.
Amazon's open though.
Okay, yes. That's good.
But that's kind of thrown us all.
I mean, a 2-person social gathering is just like the eventuality if I threw a party, right? So.
Oh wow. They're closing libraries, playgrounds, outdoor gyms, places of worship.
Me were closed a while back.
Oh, I'm so excited for this.
Parks will remain open. They are the only thing that will remain open.
So what happens if there's like 2 kids on a swing and one of their parents needs to push them? Are they not allowed to?
No, not allowed. Nah, dude, they've already said parks are staying open, but playgrounds are closing.
Yeah, but maximum of 2 people. Is that a gathering of 2 in a playground?
If playgrounds are closing, you can't get into it.
It's a park, though.
If you've got more than 2 kids, you're going to have to do like rotational shifts of taking your kids to the park.
God, imagine having triplets.
Oh.
Right, that's really thrown me off. Where were we with Disney?
Sorry, Mandalorian.
Mandalorian.
See, Mandalorian has a 1-child policy. He's just got Baby Yoda. He doesn't have any siblings, as we know.
Brinsley, if you've waited 4 months, just wait an extra 5 weeks. I've got a feeling they might backdate it and then just after a week or 2 chuck all the episodes together. Clone Wars, they've done a bit of common sense. They're airing, rather than releasing the first 5 online on tomorrow, they're releasing 2 on Friday, 2 the next Friday, then a 2, and then they're matching the air dates. So at least Clone Wars is on par, but the Mandalorian thing is ridiculous. I think that's applying to all new Disney content. So there's a documentary that's meant to be really good on Disneyland, which is like 10 episodes. I don't know if that's going to be aired weekly or if that's going to be 10 episodes on tomorrow morning. So Disney Plus is interesting. I still think £6 a month is a good price. I got my pre-order bonus in at 50 quid. That could be for a year. My issue with Netflix now is that Netflix, I'm not to get snobby. If we pay £12 a month for Netflix to get 4K, and if they're now switching off 4K, are they going to partial refund every single person that subscription in the world? I doubt it. And also, the other thing Disney Plus has done, long-term effects, you pay £6 a month, you get 4K regardless. You get like as many screens as you want. There's no 3-tier pricing system like Netflix.
Oh, okay, that's pretty good.
So it's one price done. So I think that's going to help it. Again, would you pay £6 a month for Disney Plus or £12 for Netflix? You don't have to pay £12 for Netflix, of course, but there's a lot of variables. I think Amazon's the same as Disney. It's one set fee, and that's you ready for the year or whatever you want it to be. It's just one of those where I think Netflix is not being left behind, not at all. But if Netflix aren't careful, I think other streaming services have the potential to, at some point, knock it down. This coronavirus stuff will be interesting because I've got a feeling a lot of streaming companies are going to start offering money to distributors to have the rights to their film. I would happily bet money on Quiet Place ending up on Netflix or Amazon, and I reckon they'll offer a hefty price. In the same way, what was the Cloverfield one? Not the second one, the third one?
Cloverfield Paradox.
Didn't Netflix just buy the rights before it came out?
Netflix not only bought the rights, they announced it on the Super Bowl, and then they said straight away it's available in 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
After 30 minutes after the game had finished, or something like that. It was literally like, oh, shit. So as soon as the game's finished, everyone went and watched it. It was like, it was perfect advertising because no one knew anything about it. And suddenly it was like, oh, the film's released. Kind of like now. And I was like, oh, okay. And I watched it the next day because I didn't have enough time because it was like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning once the Super Bowl, no, it would have been 4, 5 o'clock in the morning when the Super Bowl finished. But honestly, like, it was such a weird announcement for them to go, oh, it's now available straight away. You can watch it basically now. Which hasn't really been done with films before. Like, no one's done zero advertising campaign and then suddenly, bam, it's available. Like, it hasn't been done before. And I'm wondering whether films will start to do that now. Maybe if they have films which have already been filmed, maybe they haven't done the advertisement for it yet. They're into post-production, but they haven't put out a trailer or anything like that. They haven't put out a teaser, and suddenly they're going to go, bang, here's the film. And you go, oh, okay, now we can go watch it and stuff like that. It's quite nice because it's a surprise. It's a complete surprise when you watch it. Cloverfield Paradox maybe wasn't the best example of it being a big surprise.
No, I was going to say it's not. I've got a lot of Netflix. Yeah. I really don't want Netflix to go away. I know what you guys are saying, and Disney have put a very competitive price on their package for what you get. It makes sense for families. But Disney is everywhere. They own everything. All of the big movies that come out every year are Disney, and I'm kind of done with Disney for a while. It's nice to get, to cleanse the palate, to watch something that isn't Disney. And I really appreciate Netflix for, I always go to this as my example, but like Dark Crystal, a lesser known movie, cult movie from the 80s. No company anywhere, no film company would go, let's bring that thing that no one remembers back. And let alone make like a 10-episode series on it and pump that much budget into it, bring all the original creators back and, get it looking as good as it is, and like a love letter to that. That's one example, but, there are some dud content that Netflix puts out, as any company does, but it's also an avenue for these big movies like Irishman, Marriage Story. We're seeing it increasingly more and more as each Oscar year goes by. That is literally their only avenue to get that movie out there and to get seen. And if that's taken away, if that's crushed, if that goes bust, you're never going to get that again, which means you're going to have even less opportunity for films like that to get seen because movie companies ain't doing it because it's not lucrative for them. And there's no other avenue for those movies to get put out there. So I like Netflix where it is, whether they're going to have to rejig prices and everything like that. But all the articles I read, I don't know if there's any substance to it. Don't they keep saying that Netflix is in like ridiculous amounts of debt and they've never turned?
Oh, it always has been. Yeah.
They keep saying they're going to turn profit every 3 years, but they always end up going back into more debt. And it's one of them where they've obviously got some form of plan to keep getting the money. The more interesting thing is the new Scorsese film is the one based on a book, it's like Killers of the Flower Moon or something like that. It's got Leo and
the Mank? No, that's the Mank is Fincher, isn't it?
I'm not sure, but whichever, this new one's got Leo and De Niro in, and there's going to be another $200 million Paramount film. There's rumors of Scorsese asking Netflix to buy the rights because he'd rather work under them. And I think the one thing I will say about Netflix is that from day one, their directors have complete creative freedom. Yeah. It's both a blessing and a curse. Of course, directors need creative freedom, but sometimes it does need to be reined in. It's the manner in which the bigger companies do that. For example, Warner Brothers sacking, as much as I didn't like Batman, well, I don't mind Batman v Superman, but as much as I dislike the concept of Zack Snyder as the Kevin Feige of the DC universe, to sack him like 3/4 into filming and then bring in someone to do the complete opposite and do their complete own thing is just ridiculous. Versus Solo, I know didn't work financially, but okay, they didn't follow our original script, our plan. We're bringing Ron Howard, he's a solid filmmaker, but we're still going to have it in the tone we aimed for. We're not going to let one man come in and, now it's gone from this dark, depressing film to a comedy. There's getting a balance right, and I think that's why I like the fact Netflix would give directors their freedom. But then when there are duds on there, you can see why. Then you do get, if they're going to drop a masterpiece once, twice a year, there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah.
We just had a comment from Brinsley, which is just throwing me a bit. Is apparently we aren't allowed to leave our houses anymore. Well, what about?
We're not. You're allowed to leave 1 time a day for exercise, and you're allowed to leave for the shops for essential items only, but only when you absolutely need to. So basically, only when your stock's out.
So who's going to monitor that?
Police. They're going to be put on the streets.
Oh, I go on a daily walk.
You won one daily walk.
I go for 5 miles, mate.
To the shops? Do I have to include my daily walk as in my walk to the shops, or could I go on a daily walk and then a second walk to the shops and get food?
No. That'll be a single daily walk to the shops, and that'll be exercise included.
Walk to the shops then for me.
Yeah. Okay, I want to change topic. I watched a lot of films whilst out in Austria during the season, and I'm wondering if you guys have actually seen these films as well. And I want to know if you have seen these films.
How many did you watch?
I've got a list here.
Rolls on the floor.
It's not that long.
If you list them, do you want me and Chris to give you a yes or no?
Even a yes or no, maybe just like a small, tiny little kind of insight into them if you have actually seen them or anything like that.
Okay.
They do date back, some of these films, so go for it if you have. It Follows, 2014 horror film.
Yes. What did you think?
I liked it.
I think it's a really good concept. I love the 80s synth soundtrack style to it.
The soundtrack was a big juxtaposition to the actual kind of content of the film.
It felt kind of like a John Carpenter type horror movie to me, just like very small scale.
Yeah.
So I agree with that, but I like my synth soundtracks, and I think it worked. I like the concept of it. It fills you with dread. You're always constantly looking in the background. It's fine. It's not like amazing or anything like that, but it's an interesting concept at least.
Yeah,
as horrors go.
Booksmart.
Yes.
Yes.
One of the not underrated films, not at all. Went under the radar. Definitely more American than it is English. I see why it did a lot better over there than here. But I had a lot of fun with that. It was kind of like Superbad, but this decade sort of version.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I had a lot of fun with it. I thought that's going to be my favorite sort of comedy of the year until I saw Good Boys.
I didn't like Good Boys. That's also on the list here, so I may as well tick that off as well. I didn't like Good Boys.
Chris, did you see Good Boys?
No, I still haven't seen Good Boys.
It's almost, I know the kids are younger, but it's almost a bit too childish, if that makes sense. Whereas Booksmart, you definitely feel like it will become this generation's Superbad.
Oh,
it's
definitely.
Kind of big coming-of-age comedy.
It got nominated for screenplay, didn't it, the Oscars? Or was that Golden Globe?
Booksmart? No, it didn't. I don't think it did, Booksmart.
No, a lot of fun of that.
I rewatched Knives Out. Again, I've seen it now 3 times. Fantastic film. Love it.
That will be Blu-ray next week in England.
Have you not seen it yet?
No, I watched it with you.
Oh, yeah, of course I did. I was going to say, Chris, have you not seen it yet?
No, I did. I told you at the Oscars. Yeah, I thought.
Oh, yeah, brilliant.
I think I like the movie as much as you two guys do, but it was an entertaining film. I enjoyed it. It was solid. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it again, and I think that a lot of the supporting characters don't get as much of a look in as the main kind of hitters. I would have liked to have seen more of Jamie Lee Curtis's character, for example, some of the other side characters. I get that's the problem when you've got a big supporting cast and you've got a story to tell and a plot. But I would have liked to have seen a bit more distribution of screen time amongst everyone else. But it was fine. It was good. You had the typical
it worked
was
on a
it
second viewing.
Subverted your expectations, then he subverts them again, and he subverts them again, and he kind of does a little bit too much of that towards the end for my liking. But I still enjoyed it. And Daniel Craig was phenomenal in it. More roles like that for Daniel Craig, where he played a really fun character actor.
It's so funny. My parents didn't like the accent, but I was like, no, the accent makes the character.
Yeah.
Did anyone see any of his SNL sketches? They did an accent coach one where they brought in. Oh, well, obviously it's like a joke, but he had an accent coach to teach him Southern accents. SNL, you'll find it funny or you won't, but that one was funny. But his Drunk James Bond was better.
Drunk James Bond was actually quite funny. I saw that one as well. I rewatched Avengers Endgame, and I actually preferred it to my first watching. So I've only seen it twice now. And the reason why was because the first time I watched it, I saw it as an event film. And you don't usually go back and watch event films. I've only seen Avatar once. I've only seen these kind of big, grandiose, big old things like Ben-Hur from the past and stuff like that. Films which are events to go see, and then you never see them again. But I rewatched Endgame, and I respect it a bit more than I did on the first watching now. It's still not as good as Infinity War, but it's gone up in my books as far as how I see it as a film.
Would have been the best ending for Marvel.
Yes, it would.
They even sign it off at the end.
One.
All of them sign it off in the fucking credits. It's done. Put a nail in it. It's done. It's dead. Finish it.
I got around to seeing the Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight trilogy.
Oh, I'm very, very jealous. I really want to know your thoughts on this. Is it as good as it looks? Oh,
fantastic. Yeah. It's fantastic. All films have their own kind of uniqueness to it. But watching the relationship grow between the films is truly magical. Like I don't think there's a single. It's got to be one of the best on-screen couples I've ever seen. The best portrayed on-screen couples I've ever seen. And yeah, I do like it. I really do like it. It's a good trilogy. We then have all the animated films that we saw for the Oscars.
Give me some new ones there. I was like, okay.
No, all the animated films that we saw for the Oscars. I rewatched.
Good.
Yeah, Klaus is kind of edging towards being now a clear favorite for me. And it's the one that's stuck in my head more. I liked I Lost My Body, but Klaus has somehow stuck in my head a lot more than the other films. It has that rewatchability value of it.
Idea-wise and film-wise, I'd say I've Lost My Body. Animation-wise, Klaus gets it for me.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
I saw Guns Akimbo, which we were talking about before the live stream, but we should probably go into that a bit more.
I haven't seen this one. This is the Daniel Radcliffe.
Okay, before we get into whatever's happening behind the scenes or anything like that, film itself, actually quite funny. A lot of homages to 80s action films. Like I'm getting a lot of Last Action Hero vibes in there and stuff like that. It is quite a fun film. It's a silly concept. There are some jokes which don't land. There are some parts which really don't work. I'm not fully convinced on Daniel Radcliffe's American accent. But other than that, it is just a very cheesy, over-the-top, corny film. Very Deadpool-like, I'd say, in the way it's delivered, because there's narration over the top and everything like that. It's quite good action in the film as well. But it is zany, over the top. Film that I can compare it to the most, Planet Terror, probably.
Oh, okay. That's the Rodriguez film, right?
Yeah, that is the only film that I can really compare it to. It's like Planet Terror meets Deadpool.
Okay. Oh, that sounds quite interesting. I like both of those movies.
It's a fun film to watch, but then you've got all the behind-the-scenes stuff which I didn't know about, which these guys will now talk about.
I didn't.
Yeah, so this kind of came on Twitter and it was really random. The director, the reviews came out and it wasn't bad. It's like 55% Rotten Tomatoes, and basically what happened was that he then started tweeting all the journalists that were giving it bad reviews. He accused them all of bullying him and that they've attempted to murder him, and then they kind of got his Twitter account suspended, and then he went on the official film Twitter account and started giving abuse to the journalists again via the official Guns Akimbo Twitter account, and then that still carried on, and there was a rumor they're going to have to delay the film. And then is it Saban who does Power Rangers? He's involved with it all. He then said, we completely condone his behavior. However, we will not postpone the release of the film. And then I think it came out he was then giving like racist abuse off more online accounts to the same journalists. A bit crazy, but it was one of them that I just thought it was. You don't really get that anymore. Like I remember the Josh Trank when it came out, like he'd been trashing the Fant Four Stick set. He'd got in a fight with Miles Teller. He'd trashed his apartment. He was getting high every day on set, and you don't really get these horror stories of directors. But I just thought that one was not funny, not Fantastic Four, but this one was that's just one unhinged man.
Yeah.
This next question is quite interesting. Oh, sorry, you got more films?
I've got a few more films to go through. I started watching through the Ghibli films again. So, what did I watch?
Please tell me you didn't watch Grave of the Fireflies.
No, I didn't. I didn't want.
I've never seen a single Studio Ghibli film. If that's
They're good. They are good. Most of them on Netflix. So I watched Kiki's Delivery Service.
You know if they're Japanese dub on there or
Yeah, they're English.
Oh, okay.
Or you can watch them in original language. You've got those two
awesome.
options, so you can watch them in whatever format it is. We have also got Snowpiercer. I wanted to watch another Bong Joon-ho film, and I rewatched Good Time before watching Uncut Gems, which fantastic film. Loved Uncut Gems. Really kind of big horror elements and everything like that. Put into the film. It was a fantastic thriller film. I loved it. I want to go watch it again. Show my dad it because he hasn't seen it yet, and I feel like he'd enjoy it quite a lot. I also rewatched The Nice Guys, the Shane Black film.
Oh no, sorry, I haven't seen that. I was thinking of the other guys.
Have you not seen?
Nice Guys has sat on my Blu-ray shelf.
How have you not seen it?
2016 now. It's been on my shelf for like 4 years. I put it on my list of films to watch before I did my top 25 of the decade, and I've still not seen it. I don't know how.
I've only seen it the once, but it was very good. I think that would have worked as a TV series, as a kind of like Miami Vice kind of thing. Crockett,
I really like Shane Black. I've not seen Predator. I actually have a question that for us three to do later on. There's been a lot of stuff on the news actually with Shane Black last night, but I'll let you carry on.
Yeah. Okay, so I got 2 more films which I watched from this season. The King, which was Timothée Chalamet's Netflix drama thing.
Still not seen it. I know it's got Ben Mendelsohn in it there.
Yeah, it was okay. It was okay. Maybe I didn't like it as much because you couldn't actually see me in it, and the scene wasn't as good. The scene that they filmed with me in wasn't even that good to see on screen. It's pretty poor. Some of the fight sequences were quite good. It felt like watching Battle of the Bastards from Game of Thrones with some of the fight sequences, kind of that brutality, very close up kind of action and stuff like that, which is really cool. And finally, the grand film of the winter season, shall we say, that I managed to get watched. I saw Cats.
I really want to watch this. Potential drunk watch along, Tate?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like that's going to be coming to some stage. I think we should probably plan that in. We've done one drunk watch along before. What were we watching? We were watching.
We did The Room. Was the last one?
It was The Room. Yeah, I think we found a film bad enough to compete, and we'll turn it into a drinking game so people can play along at home. We will say drink responsibly when you do our this drinking game thing that we will absolutely do now you've suggested it. But basically, we'll come up with drinking rules to play whilst watching Cats. We're not going to do the one where every single time they say Jellicle, you take a drink, because they say it about 500 times in the first song, and I'm not even joking. I think they may actually say it 500 times in the first song. It is just the experience. Here's the thing: the experience for me. I watched it with 2 fans of the Cats musical, 2 avid fans of the Cats musical. They preach that it is Andrew Lloyd Webber's best. Then sat with another fan who liked Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals, didn't like Cats so much, but was intrigued about the choreography and everything like that. And then you sat with me, who has seen Cats and knows of Cats, doesn't really rate it as a musical because I think it's nonsensical and it's stupid. And it
has one fantastic song in it.
One other person who hadn't seen Cats, didn't like the idea of Cats, and just was basically sat in a chair and told to watch it. And dear God, one of the people had already seen the film and was like, "Oh, don't worry, it's not as bad as people say." after about 2 minutes, we were all on the floor pissing ourselves laughing because it was that bad. There are some parts of the film which are so bad you can't laugh. And that's truly a bad film. I mean, The Room is a bad film, but it's so bad that you can't even laugh at it.
The reason I stayed away from Cats isn't for the obvious reason, because I actually was all set to go and see it. The trailers were an experience. I was like, this looks like one of those once-in-a-lifetime movies that comes along where you just have to witness it for better or worse.
Unbelievably bad.
But then
you
some
do
people
not
were saying
know
that it's
how
not even.
bad it is.
Some people were saying that it's not even so bad, it's good, it's just bad. And then that kind of turned me off from it. And out at the cinema, and I was like, do I really want to waste 2 hours of my life on a movie that I'm going to hate?
I mean, Memory is easily the most famous song, like, from Cats. It's the song that everyone knows, like, and it's done by Jennifer Hudson, and it is probably the worst sung song in the entire film.
I've listened to it on the soundtrack. I don't like her rendition at all.
Because she just keeps on spewing out her voice, and it's like, memories! And it's so horrific. It's so bad watching it in the film.
It looks like they were trying to chase after the whole Les Mis live vocals type thing that worked with Anne Hathaway. And that worked for that. Well, for that song in particular from Les Mis. I don't think it worked for every song in that movie.
Here's the thing: you take away like the shitty CGI, you take away the terrible renditions of the Cats songs. Even the choreography isn't as good as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
The film itself, directional wise, is just bad.
The way I saw Cats was the trailer 1 and trailer 2. Now, when Cats is announced, this is one of the most famous musical. I don't know anything about musicals, but I know Cats is one of the most famous ones of all time. You got the guy that did Les Mis, the guy that did King's Speech, and he's going to adapt another classic play to live action. And everyone's thinking, oh, this is our chance to get Oscars because Les Mis did so good. He did King's Speech. He's a solid director. The release, so I can understand why these big names signed up to it. Yeah. Also, they're going to be told, you're going to be wearing a motion capture suit. You're not hardly going to be needed on the set. You're just going to be wearing your motion capture stuff. Maybe the odd other thing. But, so you got that. Then you got the filming. And then you got trailer 1. The day before The Lion King came out, this trailer did. And it was an experience, the memes, everything. It was a glorious day on social media. My vivid memory was going to The Lion King the following day at Leicester Square IMAX. And it's almost sold out. It's the second biggest way I watched last year. It's the second biggest cinema in the country. And I just sat there thinking, Rise of Skywalker trailer, Disney property for a Disney trailer. Let's do this.
Did you see a cat ass on your screen?
The Cats trailer, within a day of it being out, had been attached to The Lion King.
Oh.
Because they thought it would be this majestical blockbuster film. Of course, they'd say, yes, you can advertise Cats with a film about lions. And then trailer 2 came out. At the point of trailer 2, Cats is already
gave up at that point. They didn't try.
Gone was the fade-ins, fade-outs of Academy Awards, Tom Hooper, all of that sort of Oscar trailer lines was all gone. It was, meows, milk, screaming milk, James Corden, all of that nonsense.
I love that it absolutely swept the Razzies. It absolutely swept the Razzies. Won worst film, worst director, worst on-screen duo was won by Jason Derulo and his CGI neutered bulge.
He's like, yeah!
Honestly.
Like in the trailer.
Honest to God, it is... it's bad. There isn't a single element of the film which I can recommend to watch.
Where do we point the finger at the failure of this movie? It's got to be with Tom Hooper.
You can't point it at the CGI people who rendered it or anything like that, because they're just doing their job. They are bringing to life Tom Hooper's vision.
As well, they shut down the companies. They lost people their jobs. They then didn't hire enough people to have even done it, which is why it looks bad. It's ultimately probably going to be a combination. I don't want to blame the studio. On paper, you'd give Tom Hooper the money he needs to do that adaptation. I think it's just going to be a bit of everything. Casting decisions gone wrong.
Yeah.
direction wrong. I mean, really, do you need Cats to be a live action film? I know Disney's took it too far with the live action remakes. Credit where credit's due, the CGI is flawless in Lion King Jungle Book. But if you're going to do cats, like they are human cats, you cannot do that in motion capture, because motion capture is to look like not necessarily real people, but to be a character.
Yeah.
The film should have been done animated. I can't remember when it was done. I haven't read up loads.
I saw the concept art for it. It was fantastic.
It's beautiful. Steven Spielberg was all set to do it. By the looks of the concept art, it kind of has that Aristocats 2D hand-drawn animation vibe.
And
kind of.
I'm assuming.
So I assume this would have came out in the 90s sometimes if it was going to come out, because that's when that animation was at its peak. And it would have been fantastic. All the characters looked amazing. All of their designs. You had all of the main cats had all been decked out. Environmental shots, matte paintings were all done for it. Not quite sure why it fell through, but that was not the movie we ended up getting. So by today's standards, it would have been CGI animation.
So Spielberg jumped off Cats and jumped onto West Side Story.
Which they released a couple of photos. I've never seen the original, but you can tell that's a passion project for him. He went for unknowns, didn't he? For the gangs, he wanted it to be authentic. So I think with Spielberg, you can get a passion project vibe. I always think Spielberg's the kind of person, if he doesn't want to direct a film, he won't. Indiana Jones 5, they reckon the reason he's quit that's because he wants to focus on post-production for West Side Story. I'm guessing they didn't want to delay it another year or two, however many delays that's going to have. But
West Side Story is a tough one because, I mean, that won Best Picture, didn't it, in whichever year that came out? Was it a 50s movie? I can't remember when it came out. It's a classic, and part of me is just like, don't remake it at all. Doesn't need a remake. It's fine as it is. Let it be a piece of history. It is incredibly campy when you rewatch it. You've got all the gangs sort of like clicking and doing interpretive dance to each other, and they're not really a threatening gang as such.
It's such a great film, though.
It is. I don't know if this new one is going to be set in modern day with like modern day gangs, or if it is going to still be a period piece like that first movie is. If they do a sort of more grounded take on it, where the gangs are actually threatening and a bit more violent, but you still have all this music in there, is the music going to fit with the tone of the movie you're going for? If you are going to make it like a campy old one, then don't remake it, because you've got the campy one that came out in the 50s or whenever it came out.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough.
I think we should do a Cats watch along. I know you guys want to do it drunk, but we're all going to be in quarantine.
Let's do it drunk. I'm sorry. The only way I'm going to get through watching that film again is if I'm drunk beforehand and drinking throughout.
I will play your game, Tate.
I sacrifice an evening to watch it on a stream. But I'd say we save the Cats talk for another time. I can't make a cat fun. Let's go for. I know we need to wrap it up soon. We've got one question from Polly Wright. I know we've got a couple from some others, but this is a good one. You know each other quite well. What character in any film would you liken to each other, and why? Now, guys, I'm going to do this.
Who would we get to play the other people?
No, I think
all cast into a film. Which character? Okay, can we have that as an extension question? Which person would you get to play?
Let's make a double. I'm going to go first. I'm going to make this a lot easier and quicker than it will be for you two. We're a trio, so let's go for Iron Man, Thor, Captain America. I am Dude Thor in Endgame. Chris is Captain America. Take your Iron Man. Done.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Better one than that. I know. It was easier to come up with a trio than to individually find characters.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of individual characters. I have to give that some thought. I'm struggling with that. I'd say I've got Tate, so I'd say you're probably Joseph Gordon-Levitt from 500 Days of Summer. Please take that as you will.
I will take that as I will.
That's what Tate. That's with the love, because I comes from a place of understanding. Yeah, I'm down for a Cats watch along. I don't know when we're going to do this. I mean, we've just got nothing but time at this point, and I think it's going to be more a case of mentally preparing ourselves for the thing that we're about to do, more than anything else. I hope
I'm looking through some films here, trying to find.
It's not really a question, but is Iris? I want to say Iris Black is coming out as live from Italy. So obviously everything that's going on there. I hope you're staying safe. But have you seen Cats? Has she seen Cats? I'm just reading the comments on here. No, she says, okay, so I am curious to watch it now just to see how much it really sucks. Might need a lot of wine for it. Well, grab that wine and tune in whenever we do our drunk watch along. Even if George stays sober, I'm probably gonna have a tipple or two or three.
I might. I mean, I get paid on Friday. So I get some booze. We're all going to become alcoholics in the next few months, so why not?
Yeah, why not? I think that about does it for all of our questions. Then there is one thing that we'd like to announce. We don't have a day on it, but we've got the concept of what it's going to be. It's going to be the return of our favorite show on the channel. It's going to be good to do one again. And this is not meant out of bad taste. This is out of just purely having a joke. But in light of the situation of what's going on in the world, things are looking a bit bleak. Things are looking, dare I say, a bit post-apocalyptic in some regards. It's exactly what we're going to talk about. So Battle of the Brackets is returning with the title of Best Apocalyptic Film. So I'm very much looking forward to getting back into that, getting some good movies out. We'll probably be doing the draft tomorrow, so I can guarantee that this is probably going to take place within the next week or 2 weeks potentially. But yeah, it'll be good.
We'll get our fourth fighter. We'll do a draft. We'll let you know. We'll put it on social medias, and then battle shall commence. Because at the end of the day, someone's going to cry and say it's insensitive. If anyone's ever watched Battle of the Brackets, we're all just having a laugh.
Oh, yeah.
And I think now more than ever, without getting political and trying to sound like an inspirational leader, because I'm definitely not one of them, everyone just needs to have a laugh. And
my God, the last Battle of the Brackets we did was 10 months ago.
I can't even remember what that was.
Best film rivalry. That means I'm still defending champion. In fact, I haven't lost in almost a year.
We need like entrance music and pyrotechnics and everything, don't we? At this stage of the game.
We're just going to Skype an entrance video because no one can meet together. It's just going to be like coming in through the window. I might dress up as a bat and just jump into a giant pot of soup and see.
I'm going to be in my full lederhosen and it's going to scare the shit out of you guys.
I've got like a batch of helmets above me. I might start wearing in public. Like, do I feel like the Ant-Man or the Iron Man today? Which one?
So George is Batman. Tayte is coming in.
No, I'm not Batman. I'm Bat Soup.
Okay, Tate's going to be his genuine lederhosen.
I got my hat ready to go.
I'm going to come in dressed as a Jellicle cat, and it's going to be glorious.
It is going to be glorious. But no, we're going to do Battle Brackets. We absolutely love it. And everyone loves watching it when we get to do it. So I'm not really good at outros. I'm going to do that for you two.
Well, I'm going to go through the last couple of comments because they made me laugh. Iris Black, best apocalypse movie, the news right now. And Brinsley says, real life is worse than any movie at the moment. Well, we don't really have any movies at the moment to go off, do we? But let's be honest, if we still had them, they'd probably still be bad, right? And Brinsley kind of said a bit of the outro for me. He said, make sure you click that bell icon, Iris. So do exactly that for Battle of the Brackets and eventual watch along of Cats. Both are going to be an extremely awesome experience. Well, maybe not awesome's not the right word. Yeah. But yes, it was good to do this. It was good to sort of chill, and it's nice to just sort of relax from the minutiae and the craziness that's going on. Hope everyone stays safe. As George put in the post earlier, continue to wash those hands. We're down to 2 people gatherings now, but we're still going to be gathering on here for a future video. So subscribe, follow us on social media, links in the description down below. It was good to chat tonight, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.